Good evening, everyone. Lovely to see you all. And thank you, everyone, for coming and for us having such a full house. It's actually very exciting. So thank you. We're looking forward to hearing from everyone tonight. Welcome to this evening's meeting of South of the Borough Neighbourhood Committee. I was going to say a warm welcome to other members of other committees, but nobody's joined us. So welcome to everybody else instead. My name is Councillor Helen Grocott, and I'm the chair of this committee. In the event of an emergency, the emergency evacuation procedure is to leave by one of the fire exits. We have 2 here and 2 here. Gather in the car park, which is just over there. And anyone requiring assistance, please stay in your seats, and members of the officers will assist you from the building. If you wish to follow the agenda and you're watching us online, then please do so by going to our councillor website and following the links from your council on the home page, then council meeting calendar, and you will find today's date. There is free public Wi-Fi if you wish to download the agenda whilst you're in the meeting. As usual, this meeting is being filmed for broadcast on the council's YouTube channel, and an archived version will be available to view on the channel shortly after the meeting finishes. Can we all clap and say hello to Eunice? Really embarrassing for being late. Come and sit down, Eunice. I'm so sorry for embarrassing you. Not really. Sorry, not sorry. This meeting is being filmed for broadcast on the council's YouTube channel, and an archived version will be available to view on the channel shortly afterwards this meeting finishes. If we do need to suspend for any adjournments in proceedings, we will do so, and we will consider any exempt business as required. For members of the committee, your microphones must be switched on and clearly spoken into for the broadcast. If you're coming to speak from the floor, this doesn't need to be switched on, it's already switched on. Can I please ask now that everyone just check their mobile phones are on silent, because it will reverberate in here and you'll probably be quite embarrassed if it goes off. In fact, just check mine. Yes. Great. So I'm going to start by asking everyone on this panel to introduce themselves, members and officers, starting on my left with the gentleman right on our left.
It's not. Start now. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joshua Ojechi. I'm a senior engineer in highways and transport, sustainable transport and commissioning team. Thank you.
Good evening, Richard Dean, Neighbourhood Manager for South of the Borough, and as you can see, we're cracking at IT at this end.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Sue Ansari. I'm a councillor in Hook and Chessington North.
Good evening, my name's Lorraine Dunstone and I'm a councillor for Hook and Chessington North.
And I'm Kevin Jones from Democratic Services.
And as I said, I'm Helen Grocott. I'm councillor for King George's and Sunray Ward.
Hello everyone, I'm Afi Afilaka, councillor for Hook and Chessington North Ward. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Andreas Kirsch. I'm councillor for Chessington South and Morden Boschert.
Good evening, Councillor Griselda Kirsch, also from Chessington South and Morden Boschert.
Shahrukh Mirza, councillor for Chessington South and Morden Boschert.
Yunus Hamadi, Principal Engineer, the Highways Department.
Hello, Toby Feltham, Lead Officer within the Planning Department.
Good evening, Carmelina Hickey, Planning Officer, Kingston Council.
Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to apologise in advance because I will move our agenda on to brisk pace and robustly manage everything tonight. Otherwise, we will all still be here at midnight. So please do not be offended if I ask you to be concise, precise, not to repeat what other people have said, and to make sure that you're asking questions if you're supposed to ask questions and giving comments if you're supposed to give comments. Although we don't have any members of other committees, in case anybody arrives late, I'm just going to ask this committee to agree or otherwise to allow any members to speak if they wish to under Procedure Rule 27. Can I ask for members to agree? Agreed. Thank you. So we move to item 1, public questions. To let everybody know, for all the public questions, we have a period of no more than 30 minutes, during which any resident or the borough or representative of organisations operating within the borough can ask questions on matters relevant to this committee. So I think we've received a couple of questions in advance. The first is from Mr. Rob. Rob, please. So if you'd like to come up, thank you.
Good evening. First of all, I actually did the embedded question form, and it didn't give me the opportunity to print it, so I won't quite follow the wording of my question. But first of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to Councillor Lorraine Dunstan, because my question is all about the actual fiasco of TfL installing the EV charging points at the Acer Space Slip Road. I have to say I'm very disappointed because apart from Lorraine, and I know that Andreas didn't mention that he is also leader of the council when he introduced himself, but we've not seen the leader of the council, we've not seen our MP, we've not seen the London Assembly member or anybody of any significance go and see the business owners of the ACE. And that's been completely closed. They've lost a lot of business and nobody seems to care apart from Lorraine. I mean, when the actual notice was very short, TfL's consultation and communication is abysmal. And what I would ask is that now that where we have a weekly planning list sent to us, can we have a highways licensing list as well? Because they must have gone to the highways to ask for permission to close that road weeks before they actually did the works.
Okay, so just to praise your question, because this is a question,
Yeah, so
is around
TfL.
Could residents have notification in advance of highways
and
maintenance?
also, can the people that are supposed to represent us go to TfL and do something about ongoing the actual communication and consultation we have before they do any projects? Heaven forbid they start doing EV charging points at Hook Parade or North Parade. I mean...
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So the two questions are, how can residents and can residents know in advance of where things are happening?
Good advance, yeah.
And the second question is, what have councillors and officers done in relation to the
what
work
can
that's happened?
What can they do?
We will tell you what we have done, and then you also want to know what can we do in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And the CDRA petition, online petition, got to 283 signatures, and they were totally ignored by TfL.
I'm afraid I can't comment on the workings of TfL, but I'm very pleased that CDRA are so involved as ever. That's really good to know. It's entirely up to you.
Okay.
Thank you. So I think Councillor Kirsch wanted to mention something, and then Councillor Dunstan, did you want to say something, and then I'll sum up. Thank you. Councillor Kirsch.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Bob, for your question and for your comments. I agree with you that Lorraine has done a sterling job, and a couple of other things I hardly disagree. First of all, you mentioned North Parade or other areas. That's under the jurisdiction from the council. Of course, we do proper consultation and would look at any objections. In the case, this is under the jurisdiction from TfL. And TfL has carried out a consultation, but they had no objections, which I personally find quite strange, given, that the businesses, at least I would have expected to take part in the consultation. And we know from previous history on the Tollbus roundabout that a lot of the communications and consultations from TfL have not done in the right and proper way. They forgot to send out letters. They sent out letters too late. So I agree with you, things haven't gone as they should be. And the other point is, obviously, the main obstacle, apart from the issue we had with the buildings work to get the EV points installed. As much as we all are in favor of additional EV charging points on that location where the pharmacy is involved and other businesses, it's important that we have enough parking spaces for people who don't have an EV car as well. So, and obviously, as TfL has had their way with the consultation, what I want to do in consultation, I've already been constantly in touch with Louvain and have been kept informed what's going on, also what Councillor Crocott and what Councillor Nardelli have done in regards to addressing the problem. Furthermore, what I would like to do is inviting the Commissioner Andy Lord again to Kingston. I had him a couple of years here, and have a conversation about how the Tollbus roundabout and here in this case consultation from TfL have not been really satisfactory and not to certain standards, and how we can collectively address that. Furthermore, I would like to explore with the Commissioner and with TfL how, obviously, nobody wants to whip up the road again, but how we can make sure that there is not a big loss on car parking spaces for non-EV cars, and having a conversation if it is possible that we, gather some data, how many people really use these car parking bays to charge their EV cars, or if it turns out that they are empty most of the time, then I would really have a conversation with TfL if we can't have other people parking there as well, because the pharmacy is really important to many of our residents and the businesses there as well, and nobody wants to hinder their business. So whilst Louvain has fronted most of the work, what I would like to do is having these high-level conversations with TfL, and that's where we are working as a team, and the local board councillors are there for ward-related matters, and portfolio holders or the leader coming in if it's on a different level, and we are trying to solve the issues with TfL, because I'm really not happy as well what's happened there. And so I want that conversation, high-level conversation with TfL, how we address this and how we make sure that enough people can park there and use the pharmacy and the other businesses.
Thank you, Councillor Kirsch. We can't take questions from the floor, sorry. Councillor Dunstone, did you want to add something? Then, Eunice, I'm going to address the question that Mr Robb asked about how we can know in advance, to see if you can help us with that.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr Robin. I appreciate your thanks. It wasn't just me, I have to say. Councillor Grocott, Nick Nardelli as well, all was behind the scenes. We're dealing with it as well. I did go there, but it's been a really frustrating time, not only for the shop owners, but patients, district nurses, the residents of Elmcroft Drive who have been blocked in for the last month, and also the penalty notices that have been issued, which we're still working on with TfL and communication on that. Unfortunately, we had hoped they would have come back by today, but late today they came back and confirmed that they hadn't made a decision yet. But that's something we're still pushing on. Yeah, it would be really helpful to have the lists of what's going on when it's going on. There was the perfect storm with roadworks going on as well on Hook Slip Road, both sides, the A309 and actually further down on Hook Rise South. So actually it was pretty atrocious, and it still is. We hope the road will be opened, Elmcroft Drive will be open this week, we hope. But we will continue to fight with TfL to ensure that that's opened as quickly as possible, and that residents are not inconvenienced any longer than they need to, and ensure that we get the communication right with TfL, and that they're letting us know us and residents know what's going on. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunstone. Eunice, so one of the questions that Mr Robb asked just now is there a way of residents knowing in advance roadworks and works that are being done by external parties as well as our own internal highways teams, please?
Thank you, Chair. As you know, the service road, it is TfL. It's not highways, so therefore we don't issue the permit for any work. That should be done by TfL themselves. So hence TfL, usually they don't inform the resident. So usually they put notices to say there is a closure coming or something on that line. But they do inform the authority about the closure if there is a closure coming. So that's all what we receive information from them. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to pick up on what you were saying, Eunice, if we are as an authority are informed in advance, is there any way that councillors and or residents receive that message in terms of the notification that the council gets, please?
Yes, there is opportunity. So we can ask when the NORSWA team produce their leaflet or their weekly about any road work on the highway, they can add a new third party to that. And as you know, all of you receive copy of this. So we can ask them to add that so you are aware of it. So if you want, you can inform your resident as a result of that. Thank you.
Great. So I think what we've established, Mr. Robb, is that the council is aware in advance if TfL tells them, and what we'll do is make sure that that notification is added to the leaflets that councillors get, and then we can make sure that you guys... I will see how we can do it. I'm not in charge of the structure, but I think hopefully we will be able to get that message out. Councillor Kirsch.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Eunice. Just again, as we have many residents attending tonight, as a matter of clarification, I think there's sometimes confusion. The national law allows utility companies, if there is an emergency, to dig up the road with any prior notice to the council. They have 48 hours to inform the council. So sometimes, and that's, we try, obviously, if you know the Highways Department, if work is planned and ongoing, we try to coordinate that. But if emergency work needs to take place, utilities companies start the work and then they have 48 hours to let the council know. So that means in the worst case scenario, we don't know for 48 hours what's going on if you're not being informed by residents or other people because the utility companies don't inform us. The other thing where frustration happens from residents is they normally don't put up any sign that it's them. People assume it's someone else or whoever. We try to push them to put up a sign who is doing the work and how long you might expect the work to take, but we have not much leeway to force them to do so. Also, when they then finally tell us how long the emergency work is taking place or supposed to take place, if they are taking longer than they said they would do, we can fine them, but the fine is only £80 a day. So for them, there's not really an incentive to carry out the work at the highest pace. Just giving a bit of a context, if you see roadworks popping up, it's not always the council. We try our best to try to plan things, but with the emergency works, and on the other hand, you obviously, if there's a burst water pipe, you expect that to be addressed as soon as possible and not that here the Thames Water asks the council first, are we allowed to do things? So there is a good reason also why emergency work is carried out instantly.
Thank you, Councillor Kirsch. Okay, so just to add to that, I think it's really helpful, hopefully, for the residents to know that, as Councillor Dunstone said, behind the scenes, unfortunately, we had a similar issue that was causing problems at the next roundabout down at Tolworth roundabout. Those of you that drive past Signal Park that we'll be talking about later, and along Jubilee Way or up the A240, you will know that there were also horrendous traffic jams due to another Transport for London issue. So Councillor Dunstone and I were trying to communicate about both of those issues, and I think it's suffice to say that we were not satisfied with the response from TfL in terms of the timeliness, the responsivity, and largely, as we've mentioned this evening, the signage put out so residents know who they can take their complaints to. As councillors, we're very happy to receive emails, but sometimes it's less helpful for residents for us to say, sorry, it's not us, we will pass your email on and we will represent you, which is what we have done. So as Councillor Kirsch said, we've requested a meeting with the representative from TfL, as well as Councillor Kerr said, the Commissioner of TfL, to talk about these things and to expect improvements. We have raised the issue of the penalty charge notices, and we've asked that they are waived as a compassionate response from TfL. As Councillor Dunstone said, they emailed us back this afternoon to say they haven't yet made a decision, and I have expressed my disappointment quite openly that they weren't able to get us an answer for this meeting, because I did state that we had a question that was being asked specifically, and it would be very helpful to have had the answer. So unfortunately, we can't give you any update on that. Suffice to say, we are continuing to represent your frustration as well as ours. Thank you very much for your question, Mr. Robb, and we're going to move on now to Ms. Towner. Thank you.
Is the council aware that a chalet-style mobile home has been delivered to the piggery in Green Lane, and has this had planning permission? And also, what is being done about trying to stop the toxic bonfires from a different address in Green Lane, please?
Okay, so two different questions, one relating to planning. We happen to have a member of the planning team sitting on my far right, Toby. I'm going to direct that question to you to respond to. And then the other question about bonfires, we can give a general answer about how we can direct residents to how they can report that.
It's been reported over and over again. This is the problem.
Okay, so we might not be able to deal with casework in this forum, but we can direct you to where it's being dealt with. Thank you. Toby.
Hello, yeah. So this is the site of the piggeries.
In Green Lane.
In Green Lane, okay, yeah.
None of the houses down there have numbers, they all have names.
Yes, yeah, no, I'm vaguely aware of that site. But I'm not aware of anything currently going on, so I'd have to have a look at that.
It was delivered yesterday.
Oh, right, okay, so it's quite new. Okay, I will look into that.
Okay, so we've got notification about where that is, and Toby will look into it, and we'll make sure that that message gets back to you, Sue. Yeah. In terms of the bonfires, I think Councillor Kirsch is going to respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, on the divided up matter on the enforcement problems and issues on Green Lane, I appreciate the frustration and I share the frustration, but I really urge you and urge the residents to bear with the council. We got all these things reported and the illegal activity which is going on, but enforcement isn't as easy as one would hope. It takes a long time, and officers are for a long time involved there. And in order to be successful, we need to ask for patience. And, people, if things happen, they can report them further in to build further evidence and do the enforcement case. But it's not as easy. Toby most probably can explain it better than I can. But it's really important. We know these cases where the illegal activity is ongoing. In order to stop it and have the enforcement work, they can appeal, then it goes to the court, it takes time, cases are built up, it all happens in the background, and I appreciate for residents it's frustrating, they think nothing is happening, but please be assured we are aware of these things, they have been reported and activity is going on, unfortunately, with courts and enforcement involved in appeals, and then again going to the court, it takes sometimes longer, and as long as the court hasn't ruled in a final way and there's no further appeal, nothing can be done, because until then it's not illegal, but only on unauthorized activity. I completely get that it's frustrating, but please bear with us. We are on the case.
Do you have a follow-up question? No.
Yeah, it's just that it's supposed to be clean air, so the bonfires are illegal anyway, and they are toxic. And I live a few hundred yards away, but they're very, very noticeable, the smells from them. So you can't sit in the summer when they're burning, you can't sit out in the garden. So they are dangerous. And that is not something that should be enforced a lot quicker, because it is against the law. It's not like a wrong development or anything like that. It is a criminal activity that is harmful. It's more polluting than your traffic. So.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, so let's move on to item 2. Unless we have any other questions. Okay, we have 3 minutes left for your question and the answer, because I am going to keep to time.
I'm afraid it's not a question. I just want to say...
You say it's not a question?
No, it's just a thank
Well, we can
you.
only have questions, I'm
I just
afraid.
want to thank somebody, that was all.
You can say thanks. I'll let you say thanks.
I just want to say, I asked a question about the auditors practice, and our democratic officer, Kevin Jones, emailed me, that was the end of November, he emailed me on the 13th of December saying he was looking into it. 16th of December, he came back with a response that he got from the bodies. Not that I was very happy with that response, but just like to say thank you for a very quick turnaround in what you did.
Thank you. Compliments are always gratefully received. We don't get many of them. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to move on to petitions. Did I see a hand? Yeah? Okay, we literally have 2 minutes if you have a question. Was it a question? Yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay. Hi. So I'll just give you a quick briefing. I'm concerned about the recent increase in parking charges. So while this may not directly affect the Chessington roads, it will certainly impact local businesses and individuals like myself, because I'm a tutor. I already have clients who absorb the cost of parking, but with more than 100% rise in fees, I now face to have to pass this additional burden onto them. The significant hike could have a severe negative impact on small businesses in the area as well, not just myself. So could you please clarify what steps the Council intends to take to support these businesses in light of the increase? Specifically, how will the Council help mitigate the adverse effects on local businesses' growth caused by higher parking costs? That's me done.
Thank you. We didn't receive that question in advance, so is there anybody who would like to answer that, or shall we provide a written response? Okay, so I think we'll provide a written response for you, Gio. Thank you for your question. We're moving on to petitions. Point 2, item 2, petitions. So, we're going to talk about petitions on Barbican Close, but it's on 2 agenda items, and the first one is now. So, Julie, we won't talk about it now. We're not going to hear it now. I'm going to mention petitions now. So, item 2, petitions. So, we received one petition from Barbican Close, which was disallowed in terms of the petition scheme and how we have to have rules around petitions, because the petition referred to a traffic management order consultation which had already closed. We are going to talk about Barbican Close tonight, and although we won't be able to receive the petition in relation to that, I know that there are a number of people who are going to speak, so we will allude to that, and we are aware, we've got more details to talk about the petition, but we are aware that it is representative of the strong feelings. So thank you to everyone that signed it, but just to say we can't receive it formally, and I think you know the reasons why as well, Julie. So thank you very much. So we're going to move on to item 3, apologies for absence. Kevin, do we have any apologies, please?
Councillor Bainan sent apologies.
Thank you. And now we're going to move on to item 4, declarations of interest. So this is where I invite councillors to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests or any other registerable or non-registerable interests relevant to items on this agenda. So do any members have any interests they wish to declare? Okay, so we've got 4. Councillor Ansari, Councillor Dunstone, Councillor Afi Afalaka, Councillor Andreas Kirsch and Councillor Griseldas Kirsch. So we'll start with Sue Ansari, please.
Sorry, the item about Celebrate Chessington, we do some work on that one.
Similar, I personally know Honorary Alderman Patricia Bamford, and have been sitting on the voluntary group for Celebrating Chessington as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So am I taking it that you two are declaring that you won't vote on that item? Or you won't comment, or you're just... letting us all know.
Yeah, well, letting you all know. I mean, I'm not on the actual committee, but I do attend the meetings. So I don't know how Democratic Services read that one.
You can confer in whispering as we move along. Councillor Andreas Kirsch.
Thank you, Chair. I can know Patricia. Alderman Patricia Bamford for a long time. She has been my ward colleague. But I think more important here on this matter is the same like Councillor Ansari and Councillor Dunstan. I always, since I became a councillor, have volunteered for the Chessington Fund, and I will be volunteering this year again. For many years I have been sitting on the steering committee, and technically I'm still sitting on the steering committee, but unfortunately I couldn't make any of the meetings for this year. And I will volunteer again. So just for full transparency, I have been involved previously and I will volunteer, but I have sought advice with Democratic Services, so it seems I'm fine to vote on this and giving the full transparency disclaimer.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Andreas Kirsch. Griselda's Kirsch. Sorry, I'm looking at you and I'm calling you somebody else's name.
In a similar situation, I have been involved in the steering committee in previous years, have not attended any of the meetings this year, as others can corroborate. I have not had sight of the application form before receiving it in the agenda, and nor do I know what is actually being asked for, or did I know up until I looked at the agenda. So I feel comfortable to be able to vote on it, but I also know Honorary Alderman Patricia Bamford and have known her for a long time.
Okay, so I'll ask everybody a question in a minute, but Councillor Afilaka, if you'd like to speak, please.
Yeah, similarly, I support with Chessington Day and the celebration day, and also attend some of the steering committee meetings, so as said by...
Okay, so Kevin has asked me to ask all of you so that we record it whether you wish to vote or wish to abstain. So I'm going to ask you one by one. Councillor Griselda's Kirsch, would you like to vote? Andreas, would you like to vote? Afi, would you like to? Sorry, Councillor Afilaka. Yes. Councillor Dunstone.
Yeah, I've not had no input into the application, so I'm quite happy that I feel that I could vote.
Thank you. And Councillor Sue Ansari?
Yes, I'm quite happy to vote as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your transparency. Okay, so we're going to move on to minutes. So the minutes of the last meeting, can members please agree to confirm that the minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of January are a correct record? Thank you. So we move on to the community police update, which unfortunately, because Sergeant Ollie Shearer is unable to make it tonight, so fortunately, Richard Dean is going to read his report for us on his behalf. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Chair. As I said, Ollie gives his apologies. The Met tasking systems don't allow him to be here this evening. So his update is, in the past few months, we've not seen any notable rises in major offences such as burglary, which is, of course, good news. And since prioritising vehicle-related offences across the wards, they've seen a drop-off in theft of and theft from motor vehicle offences, although there is a little bit of a spike in theft of tools from vehicles that are left in the street. So if you know anybody that's running a business, keeps tools in their van, I know it's a pain, they've got to take them out every night, but it might be worth doing that. Ollie further reports that a recent spate of frauds and thefts across the borough, actually by someone knocking on doors and scamming vulnerable older residents out of money and stealing from within their premises. However, by information given from one of our residents in south of the borough, the suspect was identified and Ollie's team worked along with the burglary team. And after what he describes as a short manhunt, The suspect was arrested and charged with 8 offences, so some good news there for that. In addition to this, Ollie says that the team made a few more arrests lately for breaching court orders locally, failing to appear at court, and as a team they've arrested a serial shoplifter and charged with 6 offences from their local Tesco's and Sainsbury's. Chair, that's it. That's the update.
Thank you very much, Richard. So we're going to now move on to one of the main items for tonight, item 7, planning presentation of Signal Park. You'll find this in Appendix A, those of you that are following at home or online. So I just want to go through the process to make sure everyone is very clear of what we can, can't do, who can say what, who can't say what. So I've asked for this presentation for our members, our committee members, so that they're aware of the development and what's happening. The process will be as follows. So Toby on my right will introduce the planning item and the planning team that have come here today. After the presentation, I'm going to ask members of the public who want to ask any comments, or make any comments, to please put your hands up. So we will make sure that we've got a note of everybody that wants to ask a question. If you don't have your name down, you won't be able to ask a question because we really do need to keep things tight. So please, if you want to ask a question, put your hand up and Kevin will make a note and we'll make sure that everybody gets their opportunity. Please do not ask what somebody else has asked. Please do not say what somebody else has said. All the comments and the questions will be gathered together by Toby. They will be taken to the planning committee when we formally have it, which we haven't got a date for yet. So just to be clear, this is a presentation for members of the public and members of the committee, but this is not the planning consultation. This is not the planning meeting. This is your opportunity to ask your questions to the planning team. So once the members of the public have asked their questions, I will then ask members on the committee to ask their questions and to make any comments. And at the end, Toby will sum up everything. And I think that's it. That's it, yes. We have got 2 people that have formally already asked to speak, Gerald Manley and Mrs. Walker, and then anyone else, as I say, will take note of that as we move forward. And Kevin's got another 3 people as well, so we'll make sure that the 5 of you go first and then anyone else afterwards. So having said all of that, please can I hand over to Toby. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Chair. Right, hello, my name is Toby Feltham, and with me is Carmelina Hickey. Just a clarification on the committee report, there's a slight error there. Paragraph 8 should say 879 square metres for Class E flexible employment floor space. This is in addition to the 123 square metres of flexible community space, Class F1 and F2, which will replace the current marketing suite, which is already there as part of the 211-unit residential scheme development. This proposal is for a hybrid planning application, so part of it is detailed, and that's for 336 residential units and 873 square metres of commercial, retail and service space arranged in 4 blocks in buildings up to 16 stories high, together with access, car and cycle parking, plant rooms, associated landscaping. And then another part of it, which is the area to the west, is in outline, and all matters are reserved except access, and that's for a mixed-use development comprising buildings up to 96.3 metres in height, and up to 64,389 square metres of residential, and that would be up to a maximum of 629 residential units. In addition to that, there's a new public realm, landscaping and parking. As Councillor Grocott said, I'll be making notes of points as we go along, and I'll summarise that at the end. Just to introduce the applicants, we've got Malcolm Wood, Christine Coe, Hannah Rogers.
Actually going to ask you guys to stand up.
I'm going to get them to do that.
And introduce yourselves as well. That might be better, Toby, otherwise people won't know who's who.
Okay, so do you want me to introduce them, or yeah?
I think they can introduce themselves.
Fine, okay. I'll let them. I'll hand over to Countryside.
Otherwise, we're just going to hear
themselves.
names and we won't know whose name belongs to which person.
Fine, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So do you want to come up and introduce yourselves one by one? Thank you. And then whoever's going to speak. You have to speak into the mic, otherwise we won't be able to hear you.
It might be helpful I actually explain who people are and what both parties do within the presentation.
Great.
That's helpful, because there's a slideshow.
Okay, so while you're getting the slideshow ready, I'm sure you've all got loud voices. Do you guys want to just stand up and introduce yourselves so everyone knows who you are?
Excuse me, Chair, if I could ask the lady to repeat her name.
Carrie, thank you. Ian Patterson from Guinness. Well, I'm actually saying their names afterwards, so if you listen to me, you'll be able to hear what I'm saying.
And I'm from Countryside Partnerships.
And the other lady is Hannah Roger, who's from Countryside.
Guinness.
Sorry, Guinness.
That's all right.
We've got our notes wrong. Okay, so Christina, over to you.
Thank you, Councillor Grocott. So firstly, welcome and thanks for those who've come to see our proposals for Phase 2 at Signal Park. We have about 15 minutes to present, I'm told, so I'll focus on the key principles of our proposals with Q&A at the end. So who is the applicant and why does it matter? So as mentioned, I'm Christina Coe and I'm joined by my colleague Malcolm Wood. We work for a company called Countryside Partnerships, who are primarily a specialist in building and delivering sustainable and quality housing on large regeneration schemes. You may be aware, apologies, of our involvement with Cambridge Road Estate in Norbiton, which will eventually deliver around 2,170 homes for the borough. Our role in this application is to bring our experience of delivering high-quality design and placemaking. Separately, we also have representatives from Guinness Partnerships here today, Hannah sitting next to me and Ian behind me. They are one of the largest housing associations in the UK and they specialise in delivering affordable housing. They've already delivered Phase 1 at Signal Park and will primarily be responsible for estate management for the scheme once it's developed. Both Countryside and Guinness came together in early 2023 to design a revised planning application for Phase 2, bringing together the skills and track record of both partners to deliver a vibrant new destination for Tolworth. So what am I going to talk about? I think the first thing is why are we here? The second thing is the revised master plan design and the detailed application, as Toby alludes to, consisting of 4 buildings, blocks Block E, H, G3 and G2, the stakeholder engagement that we've been through today, and fundamentally how it improves upon the previous permission. So why are we here then? So site context. Many of you will be fully aware of where the site is located, and so I'm not going to dwell on this. However, some key points to note. The site is a large brownfield site that has laid vacant for almost 20 years since the Ministry of Defence offices. The land has long been identified in Kingston's core strategy as a housing site within the Tolworth key area of change. The immediate neighbouring properties include the commercial operators on the other side of the railway line, Tolworth Station, the A3, Hookrise North properties, the Hookrise South properties at the south end of the site, Hollywood Bowl, Dean and Drayton Court, as well as the existing Phase 1 residents that have now moved in. Phase 1 has already been delivered, I'm not sure if you can see that very well, but a large proportion of Signal Park Square has also been delivered, and Phase 1 is nearly fully occupied. As you can see, the site is constrained in terms of its boundaries, with levels of noise on both sides, and the site is a short walk from the Broadway, which has been fundamental to the design of the homes, the building orientation, and also the increased amenity provision and retail offer that you'll come to see in a second. So I think an obvious question is, why have we not built out the previous planning permission? So the previous permission lapsed in 2022. It was based on old building regulations and planning policy, meaning that the proposal is now outdated and not fit for purpose. It was designed before the tragedy of Grenfell and before the COVID pandemic. The previous proposal didn't have measures for 2 staircases in each block for buildings over 18 metres, 6 stories, to allow for 2 means of escape. The previous proposal was also based on old ventilation, overheating, sustainability and electric car charging regulations, and the central landscape spine was interrupted by cars. This clearly presented a fantastic opportunity for Guinness to find a partner and effectively promote more landscaping, trees, design a less car-dominated route, to update to current building regulations and policy, providing a greener and more sustainable destination, to deliver wider benefits for the public to attract people to the area, to revise the tenure mix and quantum of affordable and private homes to meet local housing need, and to revise the building positioning to respond better to existing noise and neighbouring uses. So, Signal Park so far. So, for those that know it, there's 211 affordable homes that have been delivered. It's nearly fully occupied, I'm told, with only a few left to be occupied. It's got a beautiful landscape Signal Park Square next to Tolworth Station. Phase 1 to date has contributed £2.5 million towards Tolworth roundabout improvements and a further £1 million towards improved local leisure facilities. It's also delivered the extended 281 bus route. So then, what are we providing? We're providing 226 more homes compared to the previous permission to help meet housing need. We have an increase of 130 additional affordable homes, including the introduction of 105 social rent homes. We're providing 190% more retail space than the previous permission, with 4 Class E spaces, a new community centre around Signal Park Square for local community groups, a much greener neighbourhood with increased site-wide carbon reduction from 35% to 68%. We designed it to current day fire requirements with all buildings to have 2 staircases in line with the Building Safety Act. A much more sustainable development that focuses on the outside spaces for residents and the public by providing approximately 270 new trees, landscaped areas and play spaces. We're providing an attractive design of buildings that reflect the local area's heritage through materials and colour palette. We'll be providing further Section 106 contributions and a seal contribution of £12 million towards infrastructure. The scheme has been landscape-led, with 54% increased in amenity provision. We've designed it with 3 distinct character areas, namely for different purposes: Signal Park Square, the Green Spine, and Tolworth Green. It's pedestrian and cyclist-led, with vehicles through the centre of the development being limited to emergency, refuse and servicing to improve the quality of the space as well as the quantity. The car parking has mainly been kept within the ground floor of the buildings, with only a few on street. The scheme provides 70% biodiversity net gain and 0.38 urban greening factor. So I've touched on some of the public amenities that it provides, but this slide is more helpful in showing the location of these spaces following some public consultation feedback. Namely, the blue area, which is located in the existing Phase 1 for the community centre to replace the marketing suite once it's not required anymore, right next to the estate management office. and the yellow areas for the Class E spaces situated closest to the station and by the Block E, which is by Tolworth roundabout for reference. All retail spaces are intended to be delivered in the first phase. Separately to this, the development proposes a commitment for a financial contribution within the Section 106 to improve the existing pedestrian link from Hookrise South to King George playing fields, with some initial designs by our design team on public art or improved landscaping. The scheme delivers a variety of sustainability measures. Primarily, a new site-wide energy centre will be built within the first phase, which will accommodate all properties for the scheme, including changing the already built Phase 1 energy strategy to a more sustainable one. There will be heat powered through air source heat pumps, PV panels to generate electricity, high-performance glazing, low-energy lighting, a fabric-first approach to the design, biodiverse roof coverings where possible between the PV panels and air source heat pumps. The scheme aims to deliver mixed tenure across all phases to help meet local housing need across a 10-year programme. It provides 46% increase of the affordable homes from 285 to 415, introduction of 105 social rent homes with 83 being delivered in the first phase. At the moment, we're designing it with 3 phases, moving from right to left or north to west to minimise disruption and deliver character areas one at a time for the public to enjoy over the duration of the project. Comparing it against the previous permission, there's 1 less block overall, but buildings have got wider due to second stair requirements and taller to help meet the housing shortage. Even with this increase in building floor plate, we've managed to increase 54% more amenity space. The buildings along the A3 have been kept similar to the existing one tallest block at 10 stories. Height has been focused along the railway line to minimise impact of daylight and sunlight and not to compete with Tolworth Tower following public consultation comments. Buildings have been orientated to use building mass to protect against the noise along the A3. So some images of the detailed reserve matters blocks then, blocks E, H, G3 and G2. Block E, so for context, this is by the roundabout. Thank you. This block E is a diamond design to give it a unique shape and to allow 100% dual aspect homes with great views and inset balconies. It has a noise protected podium space at ground floor with interesting glass and brick infill design. To respond to consultation feedback, this was reduced from 20 to 16 stories. This is also Block E as it acts as the main gateway into the development with a walkway through between the Hollywood Bowl and Block E. We have key activation at ground floor anticipated with a gym studio or similar. Block H acts as a key landmark for Tolworth Station with a slender north elevation profile facing the station. No balconies along the southwest facade to avoid facing the commercial operators as requested through consultation, and chamfered corners to relate to the station building and open up views towards Signal Park Square. Block H has a high quality facade detailing with ground floor window frames, change of brick tonalities and horizontal banding. Blocks G3 and G2, each top floor is set back to encourage daylight and sunlight into the green spine and podiums, whilst creating an interesting skyline from afar. There are balconies on every facade except for the facade immediately facing the commercial operators to ensure all flats have access to a balcony and to encourage natural surveillance for public and private areas. The material palette chosen for these blocks is similar to Phase 1 to ensure cohesion with this part of the master plan. So when did we consult? The team have held 2 main public consultation periods in mid-2023, early 2024, and a public information event to update the community on progress in late 2024. The feedback has been really helpful in coordinating our design principles, and hopefully this can be seen throughout the design. A few examples include the community space, which was moved from the south end of the site to the main square, where it will act as a central hub next to the estate management office. The building height and scale, the overall height was reduced, with the tallest block originally being at 21 stories. The location of the tallest block was also moved from next to the station on the roundabout to the centre of the scheme alongside the railway line. In terms of congestion, to prevent it and ensure the public space became more usable, the scheme restricts resident vehicular accessibility through the main part of the site, except for refuse, emergency and servicing. The scheme also focuses on prioritising pedestrians and cyclists and using Zipcar, which is already doing very well on phase 1. In terms of maintenance, all design decisions have been made with Guinness's estate management team as part of the design process to ensure a sustainable and long-lasting scheme. Connectivity is the last point around here, which is to do with improvements to the existing walkway, which I've touched on, and proposed via a Section 106 contribution. So, summary then, to compare it to the previous permission. I mean, the figures speak for themselves. 46% increase in affordable homes, 105 social rent homes compared to the previous permission, which had 0. More amenity space in terms of quantity, but also quality. Beautiful landscaped areas for the public to use. 190% increase in retail provision. 0 north-facing single-aspect homes. A substantially greener destination with approximately 270 new trees, PV array, air source heat pumps, biodiversity net gain of 0.7. I hope you can see how we've sought to improve the previous permission, and we're really looking forward to hopefully getting on with delivering the rest of this fantastic master plan, which will eventually be a new and exciting destination in Tolworth for the public as well as new residents. I'll now hand over to Josh to field the Q&A. Probably want to come up here.
Thank you very much, Christina. So, as I said before, just to remind everybody, if you would like to speak, I'll just read out the 5 names that we've got so far. And then members of the public, if you'd like to speak, please raise your hands. Kevin will make sure that we've got a note and we include everyone. So, this is your opportunity to ask the planners any questions or make any comments. Then I will ask members of the committee, and then Toby will sum up at the end. Before I do that, I'm just going to invite Councillor Mercer to mention something that we didn't mention before.
I'd just like to declare that I'm a member of the Planning Committee, and therefore I won't be commenting on this application this evening.
Thank you very much. So, the people I've got who want to speak is Gerald Manley. Great, you're first. Bridget Walker. Thank you. Ruth McKinley. Yeah, thank you. Richard Waugh. Thank you. Mr. Rob. Thank you. And who else would like to speak? Gia, sorry. Sorry, Gia. We'd actually met the other day and I should know your name. Anyone else who would like to speak? Nobody else would like to make any comments or ask any questions? No, okay, and then I'll go to members of the committee. So if I can invite Gerald Manley first, please. Thank you. You come up, ask a question. Come up to the mic, ask a question. In fact, we might just turn Affy's mic round. Gerald, just come and use this mic rather than everybody having to move, otherwise it's going to be impossible.
Standing ovation. This is unusual. Right, thank you, everyone.
I'll come to you in a minute, Bridget.
Thank you.
Well, actually put it on there. Reach there.
It's yeah, sorry.
Right, Gerald, ask a question. We need to move on.
Sorry. Okay, so hi there. I'm Gerard Manley of First Plan, planning consultant, speaking tonight on behalf of our clients. The Day Group, London Concrete and London United Busways, First Group. They occupy the businesses at Tolworth Depot, located immediately to the south of Signal Park, across the railway. Our clients' businesses form part of a strategic rail freight site and operational bus depot. Their operations include, but are not limited to, a rail-served aggregate depot, a handling facility, a concrete batching plant, and a 24/7-hour bus maintenance, repair, and bus storage facility. These... There we go. Oh, thank you. I'll just do it. These businesses directly contribute to house building, growth and sustainable transport infrastructure. Our clients, firstly, do not object to the principle of a neighbouring housing scheme here. However, it is very important that the amenity of Tolworth's incoming residents will be protected. Together with our clients, acoustic consultant, we have undertaken a detailed review of the submitted planning documents. At this stage, we conclude that the proposed design would fail to provide the new residents with comfortable, high-quality living conditions that they are expecting from a new residential property. The developer's proposal includes openable windows to habitable rooms which face directly onto the railway and to the Tolworth depot. Private balconies are also on these facades.
Can I ask you to move on to your question, please?
I was told I could make a statement rather than a question.
You can, but you've got 3 minutes and you've almost up.
Thank you. In addition, it's considered that there is an absence of noise mitigation needed to reduce the impact for the worst affected windows and balconies to an appropriate level. We also consider that Kingston officers need clarity on a number of technical items before they can assess this application properly. We consider that this impact and technical ambiguity will amount to material harm upon the day-to-day lives of Tolworth's newest residents. This risks giving rise to noise complaints which would have a significant impact upon our clients' businesses if their activities were then constrained. Accordingly, in January of this year, we formally objected to the planning application at Signal Park. However, we are very keen to work with Kingston officers and the developers to ensure that living conditions for future residents are protected, as they have been up until this point. Collaboration could include our involvement on design revisions, suitable mitigation, clarity on technical documentation, and our input in the drafting of planning conditions and obligations attached to a planning permission. This is needed in order to make the development acceptable, but without it, we do sustain our objection. But yeah, very happy to work with you guys, and I know we've spoken recently. Keen to set up a meeting soon. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Gerald. I do apologise. I did forget to mention that everybody has 3 minutes. I'm sorry, I told you that halfway through.
That's okay.
So apologies for that. Thank you for your comments. So can I invite Miss Bridget Walker, please, Mrs. Bridget Walker. So you also have 3 minutes for any comments or any questions. Thank you. If you can just sit here, that would be great, Bridget. We'll move it down so it's better for you height-wise.
It's not right. We should be able to, it's a presentation, we should be able to do comments. I'm not sitting here to ask some questions. Anyway.
You can ask questions or you can make comments.
I'm reading a statement.
So you've got 3 minutes.
I know.
So you don't have to ask any questions, of course.
I can't sit and say that. I don't want to stand up. I'd rather sit there.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Sorry to be a pain. Those of you who know me know that. Right. You can let me know at 2.5. I will tell you 2.5.
Thank you.
Is it ready? Yes? Good evening. My name is Bridget Walker, 42 years living on the Ewell Road. I married in 1970 and was lucky enough to get a Guinness Trust flat in Chelsea, which enabled us to save for a house. So we're well aware of Guinness Trust. The developers say over 100% of Kingston's annual housing targets will be met on this site. Why should Tolworth residents be severely discriminated against? At the April 17 appeal, 705 units were refused. In 2019, 950 were granted. 10 years later, we're up to 1,176. This will give rise to a density figure relevant to central London areas with a tube station. But it won't stop there. From the planning statement, a minimum of 965. H, designed to provide separation to allow for further redevelopment in the future. E, provides sufficient to the Hollywood Bowl to allow future development. Developers get 3 years to start but never a finish date, surely a reason for a housing shortage. Developers seeking to maximise profit from increases in land values delay the build-out of sites. 6 years from approved and only 211 are completed. Where is our delayed new local plan? It could have helped us rebut quotas from the Mayor or the Government. No opportunity has had yet been agreed for Kingston. The core strategy quoted 600 homes for the whole of Tolworth, a figure exceeded long ago. What happened to retain the prevailing character of Tolworth's residential areas with their large areas of family houses with gardens? The approved application has nothing higher than 10. Now it's high-rise city. This is unacceptable. The draft building strategy, again disappeared, shows the majority of the site up to 12 stories and one up to 17. Yet this block plan, 214, 115, 116, 119, and a possible 27.5. I don't know where that's going. The Toby Jug, where David Bowie once played, now has a 15-storey block, akin to an ugly office. You've seen it already. Why should anyone live on the Tolworth roundabout or next to the railway line? We've heard why. Tolworth has suffered from everyone using Crossrail 2 as a reason for high density. One 60s office block with crumbling concrete pillars from years of water ingress should not result in suburban Tolworth becoming a dense high-rise city. The reasons against are no Crossrail, no tube station, no additional trains, a little provider coach in perpetuity to take staff to Surbiton, yet they're next to Tolworth Station. No future planned levels of infrastructure to deal with increasing demand on overstretched drainage, sewage, gas, electricity, etc. It's very harmful for residents to have cumulatively up to 2,000 flats and 5,000 extra people, because you've got the Tolworth Tower 500 flats as well. Half a minute, right. Harmful and unacceptable dense, cramped living, lack of safe amenity, overlooking, lack of sunlight and daylight. Harmful impact from traffic on the congested Tolworth roundabout. Poor air quality, detrimental, people like us with asthma and COPD. Harmful noise levels which no amount of mitigation can solve. Unhealthy mechanical ventilation which could stop working if electricity fails. Just think of Heathrow. Not enough parking spaces for buildings near PTEL 1 to 3. And since COVID around here, more people work from home and the streets are full of cars. Only 35% affordable housing when 50% required. The zero carbon offset figure will not help reduce the extra pollution. Please support residents and ask planning to refuse it. The roads already suffer from damage from heavy construction lorries, and it will be horrendous if a tower is built on the roundabout. More people are suffering mental health issues, which will not be helped by building tower blocks.
If you can just wrap up, please.
And I would appreciate if Glyn's Trust could get rid of the graffiti because it's causing antisocial behaviour. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just a comment, because I think you said, please, can we disagree? We're not agreeing or disagreeing with any planning tonight, just to make it clear to everybody. Thank you. If I can ask Ruth McKinley to come up, please.
Chair, can I waive my right to speak, because everything has actually already been mentioned.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ruth. So Richard Waugh, please. Apologies, Richard Ware. I couldn't read your writing. Sorry, that's my fault. Sit wherever you feel most comfortable.
Richard Ware of the Chesington District Residents Association. So when I refer to the we, that is the we. We are very strongly of the opinion that there should be no additional flats added into this development, and do seriously consider a reduction to be more appropriate option. The statement by Sphere 25, who are the developer's planning consultant, from their report, both the Guinness Partnership and the council officers agree that the original permission could be improved in a number of ways. This includes an increase in the number of homes that could be delivered on the site. That statement has been made without any substantive explanation, and in our experience, it is an outright oxymoron, as you don't improve a dense development by making it even denser. No mention of occupiers' well-being were taken into account. In fact, the word is not even mentioned once in the whole of Sphere's 100-page plus planning policy, which is a bit of disappointment. More flats to us, amongst other things, means 1, less privacy, 2, more overlooking, 3, more overheating, 4, less internal light, 5, more overshadowing to not only the occupants of the flats, but 6, also to the surrounding residents, less on-site private and community amenity space, 8, less play space, with the risk of young children being unsupervised and probably at times unsafe in off-site local park environments instead of safeguarded on the site, and 9, more on-street parking. They've done the comparison and they say they've got more amenity space. Well, they haven't, because the one they were judging it against was the dumpy scheme, which not to exceed 10 stories, which literally, I can say, was not a goer, because you literally had to turn sideways to walk between the blocks. There was so much mass hitting the ground. We feel the addition of 226 flats into the scheme, making a total of 1,176, really has rubbed salt into the wound in the way it was done. Extremely nasty and cowardly, using a 3-year planning period expiry. If you look at the time on the actual construction processes to date and who is responsible for them, and then you have the nerve to penalise the innocent local community, is an absolute disgrace. And as the tower blocks going up to 60, even 19 stories on an allegedly not to exceed 10-storey development, which appear to be totally ignored. If the detailed part of the scheme is to be built out and the outline section consigned to the dustbin, as happened with phase 1, do we have any assurances that the excuses for increasing the numbers in this phase 2A will not also occur?
Could you please wrap up? Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Phases 2B and 2C as well. The local community is getting very cynical, and who can blame them?
Thank you very much, Mr. Rowe. And Mr. Rob.
I sat for 3 days on the appeal against the 705, which we won, and we walked the Sunray estate with the inspector, and one of the big fears and one reason we won the thing was the overspill parking, because the number of parking spaces are totally inadequate. The other thing is, I grew up in the 1960s, and we're now building the new version of the 1960s tower blocks, and they don't work. They cause problems, both socially and other. Secondly, as you come down the A3, the blocks they built already show you this is totally incongruous with the surroundings. You know, they shouldn't go any higher, and it's over densification. And one thing that really concerns me with Heathrow happened the other day is that if you look about 60 kilowatt for each apartment, they're going to need a terrific influx of power to this site. I think like 60,000 kilowatts, and that's just not just for the apartments, but there'll be services that need extra power. There'll be EV charging points that need extra power, and are they putting a substation in that's big enough to cope with the whole overall development and not do it piecemeal? What's the last thing I was going to say? Yeah, just totally, the whole thing, it's to do with the mayor and saying, because there's a station there, that he can now use these densification plans. But our trains only go to Waterloo, they don't go anywhere else. And the PTAL for that area, I think is one if we're lucky. And we haven't got the transport to sustain a development like this. And I think it is totally over densification and totally incongruous with the area. And we can't let it go through, really, because it's going to cause more problems than it's going to save. Thank you. Sorry, Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Rob. Gia?
Hi, mine's actually a question. I'd like to ask for clarification on the developer's exact infrastructure plans. How many more schools and GP surgeries will you support build to cater for this amount of people? Or your plans do not actually include families? Most units are single units. I had gone round to see, and you had said they were mainly single units. How many of these now proposed extra units be safe family homes? Additionally, what are the specific plans for the slip road in relation to this development, as it's already currently a nightmare and you can barely pass? Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll invite the panel back to answer those questions, please. So the 3 questions I heard, the first, well, actually the 2. The first was around infrastructure, so about increase in schools to cater for an increase in children in the local area. Questions around how health services were managed relating to GP surgeries. And then a question around the number of homes and family homes, and then a question around how it will affect the slip road. Thank you.
Can I kick off then, Chair? I'll address the GP surgeries question first, if that's a... Sorry, guys, can you hear me? You can hear me now. I'll address the GP surgeries question first. It's a good question, and it's one that we asked right at the beginning of this process. That question was asked of the council as well, but the local NHS partners have said that they don't want a new doctor's surgery on site, as was previously approved as part of the Mayor Holmes permission. What they would like instead is a financial contribution towards improving and expanding existing local facilities. In terms of how that would look, we haven't got to that point yet, but that's the rationale. Likewise, an environmental impact assessment has been submitted, which assesses the potential development impacts on all local infrastructure, whether that be schools, hospitals, nurseries, so on and so forth. With regards to school places, there is currently sufficient capacity with regards to primary age children, but I know there is almost a shortage, or if not at capacity, for older school children in terms of senior schools. Generally, flatted developments like this, they would be targeted at younger families, but that's not to say that that won't happen. And likewise, that's going to be a conversation with the council in terms of whether any contributions would be made towards improving local schools facilities or not. As I said previously, it's still too early in the day on that. We haven't had any conversations really on viability, etc. But yeah, that's where we are on those 2 points. The third question, I believe, was on family housing. Is that right?
Yeah, you take that. Yeah, I mean, just one point I was just add on what Josh just said about schools. I think the SIL payments going are roughly about £12.3 million, so there's significant SIL payments that this scheme would generate. In terms of family housing, so probably important to say how we define family housing, because often families do live in 2-bed plus homes, but here the borough, where the borough count family housing as 3-bed. So just answering clearly on 3 beds. So if we take the overall development, there's 21% 3 beds in the overall development. There is a mixture between the different tenures, and that's because it's about need. So if you look at the affordable tenures, you'll see there's 34% 3 beds in the affordable tenures. And when you contrast it with the private, it's lower, it's about 17%. And clearly that's led by what we know is the need. So if you look at Hannah's team looking at affordable housing need, there is need for more 3-bed family homes in the affordable housing, particularly in the social rent. That's how we've sought to address it. Clearly, we could increase that number of 3-bed family homes in the private, but to do so, we create a viability problem, and then that would reduce the overall level of affordable housing. So at the end of the day, it's a bit of a trade-off, and we've sought to get the right balance there.
Thank you. And then there was a question around the physical infrastructure around the slip road and how it's going to, the increase in accommodation is going to affect the slip road. When you say the slip road, do you mean Hook Rise South or the slip road Toby Way around the back of the bowling alley? So we're talking about the Transport for London owned road, Hook Rise South. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so Christina picked up on this partially within her presentation. As part of the Mayor Holmes permission, which was obviously implemented, there were several Section 106 contributions with regards to improving Tolworth Roundabout. It was over £2.5 million. With regard to Hook Rise South, I know that TfL have requested that some of those bays have been formalised, so there's some formalised parking there. That's expected to be extended further down the development. The good news in terms of on-street parking stress, in terms of the Mayor Holmes permission, this development will be providing less car parking. So I think there'll be 241 new car parking spaces provided, which I can't remember off the top of my head what that reduction is. But it's not insubstantial. So essentially there'll be less car parking required as a result of this application as there was part of the previous one.
Thank you. I think Councillor Dunstone may pick up on the Hook Rise South question. Absolutely. Yeah, so I'll let you answer that in a minute. Thank you. So I haven't heard any other questions from the floor, so I'm going to go to members now who would like to ask questions, make comments. Councillor Griseldas, Councillor Affey, Councillor Dunstone and I have some questions, and Councillor Andrea. So start with Councillor Griselda's. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. My question is one of light. Already in one of your own presentations, you could see that one of the blocks was almost the bottom 3 floors were completely in the dark. So by the way the site is structured, how are you going to make sure that the people who live in ground floor flats will get a sufficient amount of daylight hours into their flats?
Yeah, so the daylight sunlight, it's one of the chapters within the environmental impact assessment, so it's obviously a really key consideration in terms of the design. It's something that PRP, as architects, have worked on immediately within the sort of master planning process to ensure that A, existing residents at Signal Park are getting adequate access to daylight and sunlight, B, the new development that comes around also has that, and also impacts on neighbouring properties such as Dean and Drayton Court. So yeah, it's been rigorously tested. In terms of its performance, for a scheme of this nature, it's actually doing very well. The MPPF essentially provides guidance on daylight and sunlight when you're in urban locations, and you need to take a flexible approach. But that being said, it is the impacts have been minimised. The vast majority of homes, either in the development or around the development, will exceed or meet BRE guidance.
Okay. Any follow-up questions?
It does exceed this forum, but if I could see data on how it's performing rather than just take your word for it, that would be very helpful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Afilaka.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you for the... Hello. Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. Picking up on the less car parks, what is the parking ratio for the unit? And how will this be managed such that we ensure that there is enough space for residents? My other question is around sustainability. What measure will be put in place to ensure that the phase 2 remains adaptable to future environmental challenges? Thank you.
I'm going to start with the sustainability.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can hear me. So I'll start with the sustainability one whilst Josh just gets the parking ratio. This scheme has been designed with sustainability at the forefront of it, and a lot of work's been done around not just daylight and sunlight penetration to homes and to the public realm, but also overheating analysis, because one of the biggest challenges we're facing with modern homes and the level of insulation we're putting into the schemes to make sure that homes require as little energy as possible to run. They're actually getting very hot, and our climate is starting to get warmer, as we're all experiencing in the summers. So the scheme has been designed very carefully to ensure that windows are not too big and therefore getting excessive solar gain on them. And where we've been dealing with a very noisy environment in locations and also polluted in some areas, all homes that require or could require additional cooling have that potential included within the MVHR, so the air source equipment within the home, which recirculates heat and can take heat out of the air. We have designed, as the GLA requires, windows to be openable, so you can choose to purge naturally with your heating, which is why we have openable windows. But you're not required to open the windows for the homes to stay comfortable within their temperatures. So we're balancing two things, overheating and also heat loss, to make sure that homes use as little energy as possible and also reduce fuel poverty and heat poverty and energy poverty within the home. All the materials are designed within the latest sort of guidance around durability. They're non-combustible, so all of the buildings are brick, but they're also very durable, so they will last a long time, because any big building requires a lot of energy to build it, carbon offset, and reducing the carbon footprint of the building. So that's been optimised to make sure they will last as long as possible, and far longer than some schemes we've all seen in the past last. But they will also weather well. So we've got really good drip details on all the window sills to prevent staining. So it will be a really robust and durable scheme, because if you're building it, you want it to last and really get the value out of the carbon and energy we're putting into it. The other element to it is the public realm and landscape for the scheme. So we have a big increase in biodiversity for the site and nature. We have pollution absorbing planting. We have natural drainage, rain gardens, so we're not putting additional water into the system when we do have downpours. And we're trying to maximise the air quality on the site with the type of planting we're using. So we're trying to look at it in as many ways as possible in terms of sustainability, and also sustainability of the community. So well-being, all homes have access to private amenity, different types of amenity spaces for different age groups. So we have a sustainable community and elements that support that community. So we've tried to look at it in totality, and it's really informed the building form and architecture. So whether people, I know some residents have mentioned they don't like the architecture, but the sustainability has really informed the architecture, the size of window openings, how much glass you can or can't have to make sure the buildings perform in the most sustainable and passive way possible. We also have air source heat pumps for the energy centre, so it's not gas-fired, so we're not using carbon fuels, and we're all electric in terms of building systems, so there's no gas within the buildings. So we're really trying to adopt every possible opportunity to deliver high-quality, high-density housing in a sustainable way. Josh, would you like to?
On the car parking ratio, obviously car parking is generally, it always evokes emotions, doesn't it, in terms of amounts. What we have had to try and do is take a really balanced approach with regard to the local community and their concerns over on-street parking stress, B, the council's local requirements, as well as the GLA, who generally encourage for developments next to stations such as this to be car-free. As I said earlier, there will be less parking provided than that for the Mayor Homes Permission, but the parking ratio will be about the parking ratio will be just under 0.25%, sorry. So that will total around 241 new spaces in addition to the 51 already provided within phase 1. 31 of those 241 will be wheelchair accessible, and in addition to the 3 car club bays already provided in phase 1, although only one is used by Zipcar currently, there will be an additional car club bay on top of that. With regards to the surroundings, again, I know there's been questions previously during engagement exercises and discussions with members with respect to uncontrolled parking on Toby Way and Hook Rise South. There will be, or the intention is, after discussions with TfL, that 11 spaces will be allocated as uncontrolled parking available to anyone on Toby Way, along with a further 3 blue badge spaces on Lansdowne Way, with 2 spaces for commercial and the car club, and then also Hook Rise South, where there are 3 formalised uncontrolled parking bays. There will be a further, I think, 12 of those.
Thank you. How about the parking bays for cycle bays?
Yes. So in terms of cycle bays, it is plentiful, to put it mildly. We have to meet GLA requirements in terms of cycle provision. We're meeting that comfortably. In fact, we're exceeding it. So in terms of the actual numbers, I do not know, but it's 1,700, I'm told.
Thank you, Councillor Aflaka. So we move on to Councillor Dunstone, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for coming on this evening. It's been certainly interesting. I've been involved in the previous planning applications for this site, so I've seen quite a lot all the way through. I do have concerns about Hook Rise South. I think with a PTAL rating of between 0 and 3 for the area, there will be a requirement by residents and new residents for parking. And although you might not have it on site, because it'd be great, there's low parking on site, that parking will hit the streets around it. And that includes Hook Rise South. Now, Hook Rise South has become extremely dangerous. I go up and down there twice a day to get onto the A3, because funnily enough, I don't work in London, which is the only way you can go from the train station, so I have to drive. And I actually live very local to Hook Rise, just off Hook Rise South. The road is very dangerous with the existing new owners of Signal Park. To the point where my daughter now will travel 6 miles to get around it rather than drive down Hook Rise South, which is 2 minutes from our house. It's not acceptable, it's not right, and you have to do something about it. Now, I don't know if you understand that there is a business area further down the road. They park currently in Hook Rise South. They've been knocked further on. Now they're not only just parking in Hook Rise South, they're now parking on the Crofts area, of which the Crofts were not consulted on. So I don't know where your 2,303 addresses were consulted on, but they certainly weren't consulted on south of the plot, the site. So I feel very strongly about this, that you have to work with TfL to get this right and to make sure it's safe, because there will be a fatality down there. And I'm not joking. I seriously am not. As a plea from a local resident, I'd be really grateful if you do something about the graffiti, as it's already been mentioned. That is increasing antisocial behaviour down there. So my main point, I agree with a lot of what people have already said, so I'm not going to add on to that. But I would seriously consider the highway situation and the parking situation in the local area, because that is having a very detrimental effect on local residents that may not be on Signal Park, but they're having to deal with everything else that's going on. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Do you want to come? Do you want to come back on that at all?
Yeah, I'll pick up on the parking on Hook Rise South first of all, because again, I completely appreciate your thoughts and concerns with regard to that. The difficulty from the applicant's team side is that obviously is controlled by TfL. What we have done, or we are required to do as part of the Mayor Homes planning application previously, and that will continue moving forward with this application, is to monitor the surrounding streets in terms of on-street parking stress. That then provides an evidence base to councillors and also to TfL as to whether they want to enact a controlled parking zone there. If there was a controlled parking zone, we can make a commitment as a developer with regards to stopping new residents from applying for local parking permits, for instance. But until that road is restricted in terms of who parks there, it's out of our control ultimately. But what we can do is continue to build up the evidence base, which we are doing through the survey work.
Thank you. Did you want to ask any other questions, Councillor Dunstone?
No, I just think actually now is the time to get it sorted. Now is the time that it's extremely dangerous. Now is the time you've got the lorries and you'll have the additional lorries going down there from the site. Now's the time to get it sorted, not when somebody dies.
Just wanted to deal with the graffiti point. I know Councillor Grocott has already brought it up, and so have some residents. It's Guinness's responsibility to sort that out, and we are aware of it, and it is being dealt with. We're intending to remove that graffiti. It's our aim that if this site gets, there's more people moving in, there'll be less antisocial behaviour because there'll be more surveillance there. We have really worked on the landscaping along the A3, so it would be really nice when those boards get removed and you can actually see it properly, and there isn't the opportunity for graffiti to happen, because I know it's happened in the past. We've got rid of it before and we'll have to do that again. But it is on our radar and it is being sorted.
Can we just keep a closer eye on it, because this has been going on for a while and it's been left, and the longer it gets, longer it's left, the more goes on there. So if we can stamp it out earlier, that would be very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunstone. And as you said, Hannah, we've already started that conversation, so we'll continue to have that conversation. And I think as part of that, we'd want to know the frequency that you're monitoring and when it's going to be removed. If you can email me, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, so Councillor Andreas Kirsch, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the presentation. I'm coming tonight here to hear the questions and comments from residents and from the councillors in the neighbourhood. I have a couple of things. So first of all, I mean, it's nice to see that you're starting from a different point than some others in regards to affordable, but still, you know, it would be lovely to see and appreciate viabilities. But if you can, you know, and it's not the final stage of the planning application, the more you can do, obviously, the more I encourage you to come closer to more affordable. It has already been mentioned, the mix of homes, and again, I see other planning applications which have a much worthier starting point. So again, the mix on 2 beds and 3 beds, that's more than we see in many planning applications. But again, and I know the viability issues, the plea, you know, the more you can do, as we have a housing need in Kingston, we know we need more 2 and 3 bedroom homes. And again, if you look at it overall, it's many more on the private side, nearly 400 2 beds and against 230 for 1 beds and 134 3 beds. So that's actually, compared with others, an interesting mix. But the more you could do there, again, it's really appreciated because that's where we have our housing need. On the community hall, I have a couple of questions. Again, basic question, is it accessible only for residents on Signal Park, or is it for the wider community? And if so, how does it work in terms of who is managing the hall? What about lettings? How can a community activity sprawl there and happen? And how easy will it be for residents to access it and put up events? So that's, I think, is a crucial bit, which obviously for the wider impact of existing residents in the area might appreciate having the additional space there. As far as I understand, please correct me if I'm wrong, from the presentation you want to do an opening to King George's Field, which again, if that's the case, I really welcome that, to making, you know, the connections to that area and the green spaces we have there. I'm not sure from the presentation, I haven't seen anything, but I would encourage you, as the first block we got in the presentation, the first bigger one, which is facing the A3, and given the history, the Toby Chuck site, and it was where Ziggy Stardust, you know, started and his career and became a world star. If you could do anything to incorporate the history of the site and promote the history of the site, I think that would be very, very welcomed and well received. And I think it's a missed opportunity if you wouldn't. So I really hope you do. I mean, I had a conversation with TfL, and they missed the trick, unfortunately. They all said that's a great idea, but they haven't done it. On the Tolbos Roundabout, there is an episode of Monty Python's Flying Circus, where John Cleese said, I'm here at Tolbos Roundabout, and I was suggesting to them with a solar panel and a display, they could run it on an endless sort of, you know, but they said, nice idea, but they didn't do it. So please, anything you can do on the history of the site would be appreciated. We had the question on the GP provision, and I know how tricky it is, given also how, you know, the NHS is facing severe financial impacts. And I know this is primary provision with GPs, but it's slightly different than the overall NHS package. But, and I saw, you know, heard from your answer on the question from residents, I know how tricky it is, but I would encourage you, and I know they rather want to see money to increase other provisions, as you said, but I would urge you to take up again the opportunity to talk to the primary care providers in Kingston, if there's any appetite, if, you know, you could design some of the rooms there appropriate to someone who would like to take on a GP service. Again, I don't put high hopes in here, knowing how difficult it is, but again, if you could at least try again, being in touch if anybody has an interest to develop a surgery there, you know, you obviously could tailor the fitting out of the site. And last but not least, we had a couple of people mention the traffic, and, you know, Lorraine had already mentioned Hooker South, but we had also the thing about the trains and the overall connectivity. We run for more than 2 years now in Kingston the Council a large employers forum, which the big employers in our borough, and where we discuss things and see how we, on skills and employment for our residents and opportunities and other things, how we strategically can use the might of the large employers. And when SWR a couple of years ago wanted to reduce the train services to Kingston, we came together, again, the council, university, the college, the big employers, and engaged with TfL, and we could avoid not TfL, SWR could avoid cuts. We know Kingston has transport and connectivity issues.
If you can wrap it up, please.
Yeah, and last point, thanks, Chair. And we have a letter ready which addresses a lot of transport issues, also increasing the Chessington branch, which obviously serves Tober Station as well, and doing improvements there. All large employers signed up for that letter to the mayor and to TfL. So I invite you, if you would like to add your voice as Guinness and Countryside, making the case we need more better connectivity, buses and trains in Kingston. You're very welcome to sign that letter.
Thank you very much, Andreas Kirsch. So we had a question number 1 about the community space. How is it going to be managed and leased? Question 2, has permission been given to... I can't understand my own writing. KGPF. Yes, thank you. Oh, thank you. Have the opening to King George's playing fields, and how has the permission been given, or is it just a wish? Have you thought about, and are you going to incorporate Ziggy Stardust and the history there at all into the development? We've already mentioned the GP provision, but if there's anything else you can say on that. And I think the other 2 points were around collaboration. So thank you.
I'm going to start with the commercial space. So currently in phase 1, Guinness has provided some community space, and it's not a size at which we need to provide in policy terms for the whole site. So it's very much a kind of temporary situation at the moment. I know we've had some community groups that are interested that have had a look around it, but no one has kind of signed up to use it yet, so it's currently left empty. Through the consultation, we spoke about where we would actually like to see that space, and at some points it was further south in the site, but it was community groups kind of fed back to us that they would prefer to see it on Signal Park Square, where our current marketing suite is. It's got that active facade onto the square where I think people would better use it. Currently, we're in a situation where we obviously have the space that's not being leased at the moment, and the marketing suite, given I think we've only got 4 units left to sell, will be gone very shortly. And there's this in-between time before, if this does get planning permission and gets built out, that will be empty. So we're looking at possibly reconfiguring that space now before that planning permission happens, gets approved, doesn't, to kind of work with community groups to see that brought forward now, hopefully, in some sort of temporary way. If we could bring it forward and have a permanent solution now, so we didn't have to move people in and out, is our kind of best aim. So that's where we're at with that space. It is available. No one's using it currently. We've spoken to various different community groups about it. I don't think it's of a large enough size for some of the community groups we've spoken to, and we're hoping to kind of have a fix of that so we can then speak to community groups about using that space and get it sorted before the next phase even gets sort of built out. So that's where we're at with that.
Okay, question 2 about King George's playing fields. Has permission been given to show the walkway, or is that just a wish at this stage?
So that is an ongoing conversation with the council. We imagine that as part of the planning application, when the Section 106 gets signed, there'll be a requirement that there is an element of funding towards improving that pathway. What we've tried to do so far is provide some illustrative ideas in terms of how that could be improved. So you're improving that sort of connectivity between the site and what are wonderful amenity outdoor areas at King George's Fields and Tolworth Court Farm, and really trying to promote that route. But in terms of the actual detail, that's not been decided yet, but it's something that we look forward to working with the council and the community in terms of how that could look.
Thank you. And Ziggy Stardust and the history and how that can be incorporated?
We'd be delighted to, and certainly I would as a fan. We've tried to do this on a different scheme in Brixton previously, which was opposite where David Bowie was born, and the David Bowie Foundation didn't want to have anything to do with it. So there's a little bit of naming rights that we have to be careful with, but we'd be very happy to approach them and incorporate something that maybe doesn't contravene any kind of naming protection, but it would be fantastic to celebrate it. There's opportunities within any planning conditions around public art as well, that we can use public art as part of a way of celebrating that history. Obviously, it wasn't only David Bowie that played at the pub. There's a lot of famous artists started there, so there's maybe something around the whole history of the previous venue and all the artists that went there that might be slightly more collaborative, and also not forget about some of the other artists.
Thank you. And then is there anything more you want to say about GP provision? I know from our conversations and from the work that we've been doing as councillors behind the scene, just to add to what you said already, we have approached NHSE, we have asked our public health director to talk to NHSE, and as you've said, the case, the space that's there was, you asked NHSE if that needed to be changed to meet anyone's needs, and the answer came back and has come back very strongly that, as you've said, the direction of travel is not that NHSE wants to put a new GP surgery in there. They want the money to expand existing surgeries. So as local councillors, we are still in conversation, but is there anything you want to add in terms of your responsibilities as developers?
No, just that, obviously, as I said previously, we engaged with the council on that very early doors. So obviously some time's passed since those initial conversations and the application getting submitted, a sort of 18-month period. The NHS, the local NHS partners have responded to the application submission within the last sort of 3-4 weeks, and they've reconfirmed that position, which is they would like a financial contribution towards improving local facilities.
Thank you. Toby, is there anything you wanted to add to that from the council planning point of view, specifically around GP and infrastructure? Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, there's nothing to add to that at this stage. I think we have had the response from the NHS, so we'll look at that. Okay,
Councillor Afilaka.
Yes, just going back to the issue of parking, is there a possibility of having the total number of parking space that we would have based on the information that you've given us, so that we know what we're fighting, the challenge that we have?
Sorry, the total number of spaces that will be provided?
For parking.
For parking, so for dedicated car parking spaces for the residential blocks, it will be 241 new spaces. As against, based on the illustrative scheme, 965 homes.
Okay, any other comments or questions from any members?
Sorry. Just to support what Councillor Dunstan has said, this is unacceptable. 965 as against 241. Thank you.
As I picked up previously, it's been a really difficult one for us to balance. We have to, recognise the Mayor's transport strategy in terms of pushing for car-free development. That was something that had been mentioned earlier in the process, but we said no, there needs to be a certain level of car parking here. And likewise, you know, I recognise the PTEL rating isn't fantastic on the site, so people will assume that people will need cars. But it is next door to a transport node, i.e. the station, and I'm not saying that will pick up everything, but in terms of the Mayor's feedback, this has to be referred to them. They are a consultee. The balance of parking in the round, we think, is it's never going to please everyone, essentially. But we've worked and tried our best to make sure that amount of parking is provided.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from members? Councillor Ansari.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It's really good. But what's not so good is what's happening at the moment, and I fully back up my colleagues in this, that the traffic is absolutely awful right south, and we just don't want accidents happening or fatalities, so please sort that out first before going forward. I think that's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ansari. I'm aware that we've got a number of items where members of the public have come to speak, so I'm going to ask committee members to agree that we swap things around a bit. Yes, sorry, I have to finish this item first. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. So, Toby, would you please like to sum up before we move on?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Hopefully I haven't missed anything, but I've been taking notes. Mel's been taking notes. We'll collaborate all of those. So I guess the first one was in terms of objection on noise grounds, unless they can be satisfied that the residential properties won't be affected by the concrete patching works, etc. And then I think other ones were things like too much development for Tolworth, too high, lack of public transport to support high density, cramped living, lack of sunlight, lack of privacy, insufficient parking, lack of affordable housing and traffic. Concern about this already being out of keeping with the area, and concern about building tower blocks, whether there's sufficient electricity, and then things in terms of infrastructure, GPs, schools. Hook Rise South, clearly there's concerns about traffic and parking and safety there, and whether the overall parking is sufficient and how the parking in the area will be managed. There was concern about graffiti as a current issue and some antisocial behaviour. And then whether more affordable housing, 3 and 2 bedroom units can be provided, how the community space will be managed, and whether existing residents can use that. Welcome the improved access to King George's Park. And whether some history of the site can be incorporated into the proposal.
And I think there was a question specifically for the developers to answer to Councillor Griselda's Kirsch around the evidence for daylight that they were going to provide.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I think that's broadly what I had. I don't know if anyone thinks I've missed anything obvious other than that.
We'll have a look and check, but I think they were all the main points. So thank you very much. Thank you everybody for your comments and for your questions. We will make sure that these things are recorded and passed on. So as I was saying, I'm aware that there are a number of people that are waiting to speak, so we're going to change the order around a bit. Thank you very much. You are free to go, or you can stay, whichever you want to do, with as little disruption as possible, if that's okay. So I'm going to go to community grants next, and then we're going to go to Babbacombe Close, then we're going to have the neighbourhood manager's report, then we're going to go to our decision as councillors on ward funding arrangements for the next year, then we're going to take Highways point on Hunters Road, and then we're going to move the last 2 points very quickly, decision and urgent items. So, I don't know what that is. Yeah. Richard, could you do that later if you don't mind? Thank you. So we're going to move on to community grants next. So item 9. So you'll find this in Appendix C of the agenda pack. So we have 2 applications this evening to hear. The first is a community neighbourhood grant of £3,000 request from the Celebrate Chessington Committee. And the second is an application for a neighbourhood community grant of £2,650 from the Community Brain CIC. So, as you know, each of our 4 neighbourhoods has 20,000, and to date we have awarded £13,002, which means we have a balance of £6,998 available. So the process tonight for each applicant, they will be allowed 3 minutes to present their proposal, and then members will have 5 minutes to ask them questions. Then, as members, we debate the application and decide on how much to allocate, and if we allocate to each applicant. So we'll take the first application, make the decision, and then we'll take the second application and make the decision. So the first application is for the Celebrate Chessington Committee. And can I ask Richard, please, our neighbourhood manager, to give a brief introduction, and then we'll ask Alderman Patricia Bamford, please, to come and present. Thank you, Richard.
I'm grateful, Chair, for members and everyone congregated. The application for the Celebrate Chessington Community Grant of £3,000 is in paragraphs 5 to 11 of the report. And as has been said, the Celebrate Chessington Organising Committee have submitted a grant application for £3,000 to support the 2025 event. This planned for the 29th of May this year. Now, the organising committee understands that they've been successful in coming to this committee before, and to come back it is quite rare, let alone to be successful when they come back. However, can I reassure the committee that a number of things. One, we know it's the one major event supporting south of the borough residents that we have each year, and the committee did try and access a number of other funding streams this year, but found themselves unable to do so, and in fact hamstrung, because they were neither a CIC or a registered charity, and that's something they've agreed to address going forward. A legacy event, as I've said, the event's been going for some 13 years now, with the aspiration, of course, being twofold: to provide support and entertainment for the community, but using it also as a signposting event so that communities can be helped during times of hardship. Things certainly aren't getting any easier. If awarded, Chair members, the funds would be allocated as Table 1, and you will notice that the total in Table 1 is in excess of the £3,000 requested, and any shortfall will be covered by current funds retained within the group's reserves. The application supports a fairer priority within the South Borough Community Plan, and the outcome is linked to this priority. Chair, that's my brief introduction.
Thank you, Richard. So I'd now like to ask Alderman Bamford to come forward, please. Thank you, and to tell us about the application, and as you know, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm having a moment of déjà vu here. First of all, I won't take 3 minutes, but I just want to say, first of all, that we are blessed with having some wonderful local sponsors who've supported this event from the beginning. And I can say that most of them are doing as much as they can and as much as they have previously, but we are unsure currently about the provision for some of the things that we previously had sponsorship for. In relation to the report, Table 1, it's got a number of things listed. I don't want to go over the whole report, but I would say that the most excessive costs we have are for the hire of the fun fair. We're unsure about sourcing gas for barbecues at the moment. I've got a couple of committee members here, and I'm hopeful that that's going forward. We also need tombola prizes, and we have King's College London oral health team coming, but in dialogue with them, they're not able to bring the supplies that they have done previously, such as toothbrushes and toothpaste for children. And as you're all probably aware, there's a massive crisis at the moment with children's oral health. The event is weather dependent, and we wouldn't necessarily be in this position if the sun shone all the time last year, we would have had a much higher footfall, I feel. We've got the additional attraction of vintage vehicles to help celebrate military vehicles, that is, thanks to Mr. Rob here, who's contacted an organisation who are going to bring along a number of vehicles so that we can commemorate VE Day 80 years celebration. So that's another further attraction that we've managed to secure for this year. And I'm happy to tell you that our treasurer is already made some progress with applying to be a CIC, and he'll finish it off on his return from his break. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. So, do members have any questions about the application? Councillor Kirsch.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Honorary Alderman Bamford. Thanks for all the engagement. I know the event is running for 13 years, and you've been one of the people who started organising it, and it's a wonderful event for the community and for getting our more deprived residents out and about and their children. So it's really a great event. On the table one, I'm referring to that one, the 15 safety barriers, I suppose, and that's at the moment from the funding you're seeking tonight, the biggest chunk, and the waterproof tents. I assume, like other equipment has been granted earlier on, that will be used not just for 1 year, but stored securely and used for future year events as well, I suppose.
Yeah, we don't have sufficient storage. Sorry, Chair, beg your pardon. We don't have sufficient storage to store barriers permanently. But where's he gone? Mr. Rob, once again, has managed to secure some barriers from another source as well that Chessington Football Club have agreed to store for us. So whilst that would have been the largest expenditure, we have been fortunate to secure some more barriers, and also one of our local organisations has given us a significant discount in the hire of barriers as well, so we won't have to store those too. There will be an additional pressure though because of the military vehicles we will have on site and the fact that they want to do a trip from where they're sited to the arena so they can talk about each one. There will be a pressure on our health and safety. So it will need proper marshalling and proper securing so that there are no opportunities for accidents of people straying in the way of these moving vehicles on site. So that's why we need so many.
Thank you. So can I just clarify from your answer that the 15 safety barriers that you're requesting 112650 are still going to be needed despite the fact that you've just mentioned you're sourcing some of them from somewhere else because of the reasons that you've given?
Exactly. We will still need at least 15. Yeah.
Okay. I have a question. So underneath the table 1, there's a sentence that says any shortfall in funding will be covered by current funds retained in the group's current reserves. We did ask for some information about the group's current reserves, but we didn't receive it. So I'm just interested, if the group have got current reserves, would that not cover some of the request of funding?
The reserves normally cover the cost of those things listed. Not so much the health and safety officer, first aid provision, hire of man and a van, that cost has gone up this year, and so has the cost of the health and safety officer. So, and for very good reasons, because, you know, we're all in the same boat, aren't we? And everyone needs to make a living. We don't have the final estimate in terms of how much the fun fair is going to cost and quite what they're going to bring. It was always our hope to try and get an attraction of some kind that, with a quick footfall to go through for young teenagers and older children, rather than just the specific small child fun fair. So we're still looking at that because we're not necessarily attracting the people, those hard to reach children and young people who you know, need a lot of occupying as they're growing
1
up.
minute.
Thank you. So I'm just trying to hear the answer to my question. So are you saying that the reserves that you do have effectively already been taken up by having to pay for other things
A
that
lot
you
of them
haven't
have.
requested
Yeah, a
in
lot
terms
of them
from
have.
us?
And that list that I mentioned in terms of the fun fair, the gas for the barbecue, tombola prizes, we have to outsource them. We get lots of things donated from people, unwanted presents. But again, there's pressure on that as a resource from other organisations who, you know, try and collect things for their own fundraising. But the dental products are going to be a significant cost that we hadn't quite appreciated, because in previous years they've bought their own. So that's going to take. Thank
So
you.
if I have no other questions, I'm going to move the following recommendation: that the application for a Neighbourhood community grant of £3,000 from the Celebrate Chessington Committee, as set out in paragraphs 5 to 11 of the report, be approved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dunstone, thank you. So would any members of the committee who wish to speak please raise your hand? Councillor Kirsch, thank you. And then Councillor Dunstone.
It's a great project. Oops, my computer just crashed. Oh, there we go. Can you just please clarify one more time for me what you are actually asking funding for? Because I keep on hearing toothbrushes and it's not on your table. So what you are asking for...
So I'm really sorry, Councillor, we've done the question section.
Yeah, I had my hand open and you didn't see me.
I'm very sorry.
Sorry.
Please ask a question and then we'll go back to the seconder.
So it's
it's on that list,
it's just
table
one.
one,
Okay.
on page C3, plus the additional things that I've mentioned.
But they are not in the table.
Sorry?
The additional...
Which aren't in the table, no.
Okay, thank you.
It's an emerging picture.
Okay, thank you.
And my apologies, our treasurer's away on holiday, so I can't ask for all the financial information.
So for
that we
clarity,
normally have.
qualified health and safety officer 300, first aid provision 150, man and van hire 300, portable toilet provision 700, 15 safety bearers 1,126.50, and 4 reusable weatherproof tent signages at £200 per item, 800. So that comes to 3,376.50, because the maximum you can request is 3,000. The request is for 3,000. Yes?
Correct.
Thank you. So does anyone wish to speak for the debate? So Councillor Dunstone and then Councillor Afilaka.
Thank you. I just wanted to welcome this coming forward. The event is an amazing event for the children and adults in Chessington, providing them with so much information and offering them to have a really enjoyable day out and a relief from everything else that they're dealing with. So it's really to support it and to say thank you very much for bringing it forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Afilaka.
In the same light, just wanted to say it's always good to, come to the event, despite the fact that it's most of the time on my birthday or a day before my birthday. But at least the ones that I've attended has been great. Children always look forward to it, especially those children that don't have the opportunity to travel. So it's something that both children and adults look forward to. It's just like an incentive for these kids. And just to say thank you for the committee that have always, been tenacious to put this together. And we look forward to having a fun and amazing time this year without me.
Thank you. So to sum up, I think members have commented that we always find it an amazing, enjoyable day out. It's relief for the participants, and that's why it's so important for our children and older children in south of the borough, especially for those children who maybe can't travel for the holidays, that they have something that they can look forward to and enjoy. And we know that as a committee, we've always supported it in previous years, and we're very grateful for the work that the local residents do to organise it each year. So can I take this as a unanimous vote, or do we wish to go to a vote separately, committee? Unanimous. So we've unanimously agreed to fund £3,000 for the Celebrate Chessington Committee. Thank you very much.
And thank you to all the committee. Thank you. Hopefully we'll see some of you as volunteers on the day. Thank you.
And just for the record, so that we do everything properly, can everyone who has declared an interest just formally say that they are... What did you say, Kevin? Nobody who's voted tonight is actively on the steering committee. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to our second application of the night, which is for a neighbour community grant of £2,650 from the Community Brain CIC. And again, Richard, could you please give a brief introduction, and then I'll ask Robin Hutchinson, please, to come forward. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much, Chair. So as mentioned, the Community Brain CIC have submitted a grant application for £2,650 to part fund a project celebrating 60 years of award-winning fashion in Kingston. If the application is successful, the project will run from April to October 2025 and be based at the Hook Centre. The Community Brain CIC, as you know, is a not-for-profit organisation based in the Borough of Kingston, whose primary focus is to help people engage positively and productively with the place that they live, work and study in. 2025 marks 60 years since Kingston School of Art won an International Youth Fashion Design Award in Switzerland, placing the UK firmly on the map so far as fashion is concerned. Kingston School of Art's fashion course is led by someone called Daphne Brooker, who Robin might well explain more of, became recognised as a world leader. To celebrate this amazing achievement, the Community Brain is using 2025 to celebrate the story of the 60 years of fashion in Kingston, and they want to ensure that the south of the borough's voice within this project is celebrated fully, specifically with reference to the history of the fashion industry locally, ranging from Mary Quant, Gala Cosmetics and Oliver Bonus. If the grant's awarded, the Community Brain will set up a temporary purpose-built studio in the Hook Centre, and they will invite local residents to bring their own clothes and take studio quality photographs of them wearing these clothes. Once done, the residents will be able to keep these photos of themselves, but also be able to participate in by the photograph being used as a large montage of fashion photographs that will be displayed on fashion walls, both at the Hook Centre itself and in Kingston Town Centre. These fashion walls, as well as celebrating the rich history of the fashion in Kingston and south of the borough, will form part of Kingston 2025 celebrations, marking key times during the 1100-year history since the crowning of Athelstan, first king of the United England in 925. I do hope I got all those facts right, by the way. A total cost for the project is £3,650 as stated. Part funding to support the project is being supplied via the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Costs associated with the project for members, Chair, are included in Table 2. And just finally, it's for me to say that the application supports the fairer priority within the South of Borough community plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Robin, would you please like to come up and tell us a bit more about the application in your 3 minutes?
It's just on. Doesn't even get a light. Thank you, Chair, and hello. It's like sitting in front of Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper.
Who's Jesus?
Yeah, I'm not getting into that. Thank you very much for the opportunity. As Richard has stated, this is part of a celebration as part of our 1100, but focusing on the astonishing role Kingston has had in leading in fashion. From this first win in 1965 under this remarkable woman, Daphne Brooker, who headed the fashion course at Kingston, as it is now university, for 29 years, and basically fed year on year students into the fashion industry internationally. It's one of the most remarkable remarkable comments given to me was that there is not a fashion house nor leading publication that does not have or has not had a Kingston University student involved at the highest level. Indeed, when we met with Oliver Bonas, who are obviously on the trading estate a week ago, they were straight into saying how many ex-Kingston University students they have working there. So it's a real celebration of the impact this borough has had on the look of our clothes, our styles. I'm the last person to talk about style, in fairness, since the 1960s. But the danger is with a lot of these things is they end up being focused around the town centre, and what we wanted to make absolutely sure was south of the borough benefits from this project and is recognised within this project. The fact that Mary Quant's makeup came off the Cox Lane, the fact that Oliver Bonas is there are a lot of stories about fashion in this part of the borough, and we want to celebrate it. And we want to celebrate the rich diversity and the community that makes up south of the borough. So having the studio in Hook is an important way of doing that and identifying it. And since we put this in, we've now spoken with Chessington School, who are keen for their students to get involved as well. So we would just like to use this as a way of ensuring and signalling that the whole borough has contributed to the massive reputation that Kingston has for leading the way in fashion.
Thank you very much, Robin. So do any members have any questions to ask Robin about the application? Councillor Dunstan.
Sorry, where can I get some clothes? Because I wasn't in the 60s.
You can come.
Thank you. So if we have no other questions, I'm going to move the motion, then we can make any comments we wish and debate. So I'm going to move the recommendation that the application for a neighbourhood community grant, I'm wearing my wrong glasses, of £2,650 from the Community Brain CIC as set out in paragraphs 12 to 19 of the report be approved. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Andreas Kirsch, thank you. So would members of the committee who wish to speak or make a comment raise your hand? Councillor Kirsch, Councillor Afalaki, Councillor Griseldas Kirsch and Sue. Sorry, thank you. So Andreas, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Robin, for coming here tonight, and thanks for Community Brain for, putting this application in, and even more for doing all the great activities. And I know, and I really appreciate, the highlighting of south of the borough and the links to the history of our industrial estate and the people in south of the borough. So really appreciate that. And it's not the first time, where Community Brain is doing things on the Hook Centre. So again, that's really, really welcomed. Since we made the Hook Centre and a community centre, there have been plenty of events where Community Brain has been involved or creative use. So it's really, really welcome. And again, I really like the idea, not just having something in south of the borough celebrating Kingston University and the students, but also celebrating our own part of that success story of Kingston, highlighting the own history of our part. So really welcoming the application and the event and what Community Brain is up to do in regards to celebrate the fashion in Kingston and in south of the borough.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kirsch. Councillor Afilaka.
I just want to say thank you for all that you do, and especially putting this together. I'm very sure that the community, Royal Borough of Kingston, do take pride in the heritage. But with this is just a different spice to what we take pride in already. And, looking at the evolution and the transition of fashion over the years, I am sure everybody will be elated and will want to get involved in it. So just to say thank you. Recognizing South of the Borough is a big one for us here, so which doesn't happen often. So thank you for doing that. And I know that it will be a success, so I welcome this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Griseldas Kirsch.
Thank you, Robin. For a second, I thought you were going to make us dress as Saxons, but it's really brilliant. So great event, and particularly warm thank you for bringing this down to the south of the borough. It sounds amazing. So wish it all the best of success for it.
Thank you. Councillor Sue Ansari.
Yeah, just amplifying all what everybody's been said. We're so happy that you've brought this now to Hook and Chesington. I met you first in 2021 at the Hook Centre, and I can remember you telling me that some of the ideas that you had in your head then, and it was so exciting. And and to get the children in Chesington School and probably the others engaged in this as well. And for oldies like me, so you're going right from the youngsters up to the, my age and above. So thank you so much for bringing it here, because I think sometimes we feel a bit out on the limb in Chesington. We are literally, aren't we, with that? So it's great to be part of everything with you. Thank you very much, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. So I'm going to go to our vote. So can I take it as unanimous that we're voting for this, or do the committee wish to go to a vote? Unanimous. So thank you, Robin, for bringing this. As everyone said, it's really exciting. So we're happy to grant you 2,650 for your amazing idea. And we look forward to it starting in April. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee.
So we're going to move straight to item 12, because I know residents of Abercombe Close have been waiting for this. So, moving on to item 12, you will find it in Appendix F of your packs, the Abercombe Close report. So I'm going to ask Eunice, please, to introduce the report first, and then residents who have asked to speak and wish to speak, Sally and Julie and others, I'll invite you up after that. So, Eunice, if you could please introduce the item.
Thank you, Chair. We received a request for a yellow line in Abercombe Close. My team visited the site and came up with a scheme to address the issue raised. Then, as a part of the statutory consultation, we have advertised the traffic management order, and we sent letters to the resident of Abercombe Close.
Please don't interrupt. We all need to listen to each other. You will have your opportunity to speak. Please don't shout out.
As a part of the process, a letter should be sent out to the resident to Abercombe Close, inform them of the scheme. So we received a number of objections on the scheme. So my team looked into the objection received. Then we changed the proposals in order to address the point raised. Bearing in mind as well, or currently what we ask the members to approve is to introduce the yellow line of the hammerhead. And the reason for that is to allow three-point turn and emergency services to be able to have a three-point turn when they reach the hammerhead. So my recommendation is to approve only the yellow line at the hammerhead, changing in order to address the point raised and the objection received. Furthermore, we did ask the fire brigade in their view about Abercombe, and I did share with members their reply. The fire brigade felt the yellow line along Abercombe Close is not needed because they felt they can drive over the footway. However, they were concerned about the hammerhead. If it's going to be fully parked, then it could be an issue for them for the three-point turn. So therefore, I'm taking all these into consideration. I'm asking members to approve the revised plan, which is only the introduction of double yellow line in Abercombe Close at the hammerhead, and set aside the objection received. Some of the objection received. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Eunice. Now, I know there is lots of very strong feeling, so I've got two residents who've asked to speak. Does anyone else wish to speak other than Sally and Julie? No. Okay, so could I please ask Sally to come up first and then Julie? Thank you.
Right, hi. So first of all, none of our residents were sent any information about this at all in our road. Nobody was sent any warning. The only warning we had was a poster stuck on a lamppost at the end of the road that Julie happened to see, saying that the proposals for the yellow lines, we weren't given any notice at all, were we? So do you want us to ask the questions, or first of all, or because we've got a number of questions?
If you make your statement,
yeah,
please.
So I've lived there for 37 years. We've never had a problem before. This affects my house, number 8, and Julie opposite, number 7. Everybody else has driveways. So, and in all the 37 years I've lived there, that's never had a problem with skipped lorries or dust carts, emergency services. I've got an autistic grandson who I care for. I'm his main carer. If I have to be forced to park in Woodgate Avenue, which is the only option, it will start to produce difficulties for us because of the danger of him. He has no road sense. He needs to be transported from schools directly to my house so that he can go straight in. If we park on Woodgate, then it's going to become a safeguarding issue. Yeah, it's just the whole thing is just ridiculous. I just don't know how this has come about. Why has this suddenly happened after all this time? It's never been a problem before. So, and it was also changed as well, wasn't it? The double yellow lines was supposed to be down one side, and they've now changed that, and now they're just putting it in our particular bit down the bottom. So where are we supposed to park? Julie's got problems with her mobility. Her mum comes to visit every so often. She has oxygen. She's got COPD. So she needs to be brought directly to the house and parked outside with access to get to the car if they need to, if anything happens to her when she does her visits. So the issue about the three-point turns doesn't make any difference. If there's cars parked there, you can easily swing round and come out. And as I say, it's always been the same with all the lorries and delivery vans. It's never been a problem. We just don't understand why this has all of a sudden become an issue.
Thank you. Julie, did you want to speak separately as well?
Yes, please.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Can we have our petition of 140 signatures recognised? 43 of those are from within the borough. They were submitted on the 20th of March, but we were later informed they had to be received by the 5th of December. I only spotted the sign on the lamppost on the 3rd of December, so we've had a total of 2 days to actually appeal this plan, which is not enough to get together a proper petition and send it in. So 10 of us are actually here today, 2 of us brave enough to talk. So yes, take that into position. I received an email from Eunice, yes, in January saying it was just about the carriageway being 4 metres wide. It's now changed and it's talking about our end of the drive. So why has this changed? That's my first question. So this part, I'm losing it now.
It's all right.
Yeah. So we've never had any trouble. We've been here for decades. And we've had no history of collisions. So that was it. At the bottom of the beginning of the agenda, it says the community will benefit because it's road safety, it avoids collisions and blocked driveways. That's what it's based on. We've had no problems with blocked driveways. There's been no collisions. The road safety's fine. Our children and grandchildren play out there. If the cars are removed, then the delivery drivers are going to come down the road faster. It's going to make it more dangerous for our children, for our pets and our wildlife. Yeah. So the complaints, wondered if it's just based on complaints, are they being used?
1 minute.
Sorry, yeah.
Is this to do with complaints
yes,
from...
Yes, one. Yes, so the complaints, are they being used to justify this? And has the council investigated whether they stem from personal disputes rather than genuine access concerns? Was something we was worried about. And how, oh God, the most important bit, sorry. Road Traffic Act requires the fairness and consistency in applying road restrictions. So if double yellow lines are necessary in Babbacombe, they're going to be required in Haverley Close and all the local closes. There's Hartfield Road, that's a dead end. Cul-de-sac, Tiverton Way is a narrow road, South Place in Surbiton, they've not got double yellow lines, they're only 3 metres wide. Tiverton's only 2.9 metres wide. If Haverley's included in double yellow lines because they're identical as us, how will safety be affected when a total of 10 extra cars are then placed into the overcrowded and busy Woodgate Avenue, which has the K4 bus route, speed humps, and also a popular children's playground, which is on a blind corner? I got there in the end.
Thank you, time.
Well done. Well done, Julie. So thank you very much, Julie and Sally. Thank you for representing your fellow residents. So I think just to address the petition point first, Eunice, do you want to just explain the timings and how the notification of a traffic management order is done, the process, and then how timings of petitions feed into that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. When we receive a petition, if we have an existing scheme, like we have a traffic management order has been published, and we have a petition will be considered as a part of these objections received. So we don't address it as a separate issue because you are, in your petition, asking for not to put the yellow line in Babbacombe Close. So hence, we have publication for traffic management order for the yellow line. So anybody can object. It doesn't have to be live in Babbacombe at all. Anybody in the borough can, outside the borough too, they can. So we consider this petition as a part of the objection. Hence, I'm considering all what we receive now as a part of this objection to the existing traffic management order which had been published in December. I hope that answers the question, Chair.
So are you saying that the date that we received the petition was after the consultation dates had closed, and therefore that's why it can't be formally accepted?
Yes, because we felt there is a strong feeling among the residents. I know they missed the opportunity to give us their objection during the publication. Despite all of that, we did receive objection during the publication. So we already bring in a report to this committee with or without the petition received because we have already objection. So what we considered, because we had an objection, so we can add this objection to the objection, to this petition, to the objection received in order to address it, because we already bring in a report to you, members, in order to address the objection received during the publication of the traffic management order.
I'm a little bit confused.
No, what I'm trying to say, Chair...
Are we accepting it formally as part of the objections, or are we not? I guess that's the question. So we are?
Yes.
So Julie and Sally and other residents, we are accepting the petition. And I need to state, though, that, as you know, a petition to be valid has to be 20 names or more. Although this was signed by 138 people, we will take the 43 of those who live in Kingston and the 5 of those who live in Babbacombe Close, so that's 48. But the people who live outside, we can't formally accept that, but we're happy to accept it. So in answer to your question, we are accepting that because it's clear that there are strong feelings about it.
Chair, may I answer? This report, it is a reply to the petition. So when we say the petition, we're accepting it as an objection to the proposed traffic management order for the yellow line. So we're not going to deal with it as how we deal with petition itself. Thank you.
So what we're saying, just so you understand the kind of council regulations, is when we receive a petition, there is a certain way that we receive and deal with petitions that is not necessarily making it part of this process. But what we're doing is we're making it part of this process. So we're hearing it as part of the objections that everyone has made, if hopefully that makes sense. So Eunice, would you be happy to answer the question on how and why some of the suggestions or the recommendations from the Highways team have changed and what they've changed in response to?
Thank you, Chair. As I said previously, when we receive a request, we do visit the site. So when my team visited the site, they found the carriageway width is very narrow. Would that mean if there is too many parking on both sides or people parking on the footway, there could be difficulty for the fire brigade. So by removing parking, we want to maintain access for fire brigade. However, as the fire brigade said in their email, they are happy to drive over the footway in order to reach the end of Babacom Close. So therefore, we removed the bit which we are proposing to put in Babacom in the straight line to be yellow line. So therefore, we are considering the resident point of view about not taking this parking bay and leaving it, and the fire brigade assuring us they can drive over the footway if it's needed. The only concern there is, if the hammerhead is fully parked, it's going to be very difficult to reach the end. So therefore, I'm asking members is to consider only the hammerhead to be cleared. So the resident who park in the hammerhead, they can park along Babacom Close further down. That's first. Second, if people they want to be dropped or loading or unloading in yellow line, they still can. So if you have somebody who need to be accessed or to be dropped outside their property, they still can be dropped outside property and can go further down and park in Babacom Close, where the straight line is. It doesn't have to be precisely outside the house. So therefore, I'm asking members just to consider the hammerhead to be clear from any parking. I hope that answers the question, Chair.
And yes, the hammerhead is the circle bit at the end, just so everyone's clear. Okay. And then I think the last point is there was a point about fairness, and if we applied on the principles of fairness and health and safety some extension of the double yellow lines on Babacom, would we need to do that on all the other roads nearby that have the same conditions?
Chair, we rely a lot on the resident feedback to us. So if somebody lives in Babacom and they tell me they have a problem with access, then in that case, I will have a look at it. But if we feel this issue as well, it impact on other cul-de-sac, we will visit it in order to address it. But this has been brought to us in order to look into it. We didn't go targeting Babacom. We want to put yellow line in Babacom. It's just somebody in Babacom wrote to us, telling us to address the issue. So therefore, that's come as a result of that. We didn't pick up this road because there is other road which has similar definition in terms of width of carriageway and cul-de-sac, but we haven't received any request. But it's in your hand, members. I explained to you the situation and what we would like. If members feel the existing or the proposed for the hammerhead is rather extreme, maybe at least we can have part of it to be double yellow line and we leave the other part without yellow line, so some residents can park and we still have an area for the three-point turn if it is feasible to do so. It's as a compromise position, but the call is yours, members, if you want to approve the scheme or you don't. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we've represented your questions. You're free to go back or stay there, whichever you want to do. You guys, yeah? You can go back. So we're going to carry on now with the debate for members. So members, I'm going to move the following recommendation, then we'll have our opportunity to discuss your points and your comments. So the formal bit is that the committee is asked to resolve that the objections be noted and partially upheld. So this is the recommendation from the Highways team. that the scheme be implemented with the location of the double yellow lines modified as we've been discussing in line with paragraph 3, and that the objectors, be informed of the committee's decision. So can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Avilaka. So now, members of the committee who wish to speak, please could you raise your hand? Councillor Dunstone, Councillor Avilaka, Councillor Andreas Kirsch, and Councillor Sue Ansari. Thank you. So, Councillor Dunstone first.
So, firstly, a question to Eunice, if possible. There appears to already be, I mean, I know when I've been down there and had a look, but there's already yellow lines down one side of Barbican Close. So that would keep that side of the pavement clear for any emergency vehicles. Okay, so that's one point. The report from the fire brigade doesn't mention anything about the hammerhead, or not on the information we've received. All it does is say we'd prefer it. We can get down there if we go onto the pavement. We'd be more of a concern with the excess parking going onto Woodgate, which is actually my feeling as well. Yes. I think Woodgate has a parking stress already on it. There is a playground across the road, which concerns me if we're trying to fit more cars on Woodgate. I just think that actually we are trying to fix something that doesn't need fixing. Yeah, I haven't got anything else to add apart from that. I think it's something that isn't needed. The fire brigade are happy to get down. If everything else can get down there, I've been down there, I've driven down there, I can turn around down there. I've done it a couple of occasions at different times to check that it was feasible. I really agree with the residents that we leave alone. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Avilaka, please.
Yeah, thank you. The first question to Eunice is, what difference will this change make in terms of what we have before and now, in your own professional judgment?
As I explained earlier, is the hammerhead is an area where we would like to keep it clear for anybody entering the Barbican Close. Currently, if there is a car parking there is no restriction. So they can park, they can park outside their driveways, and they can park on the all of the hammerhead. So if there is this parking taking place, any SUV, any vehicle going further down to the hammerhead, they can't do three-point turn. And I'm concerned about the emergency services. Like I said earlier, this has come as a result of complaint received. We didn't come about it because we want to introduce it. So we are addressing the concern of our resident, and we propose a scheme to address it. So, but as I said, members, the call is yours, and you can make the final decision.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been there as well, and I think the state of the area is okay. Based on what the residents have said as well, there are no collisions. These people have been living there for decades. It's a safe environment for them and their relative. If the majority of the people living there are okay, I don't think we need to change anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Andreas Kirsch, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree with my previous colleagues who have spoken. I mean, basically, yeah, and I appreciate we got a request from a resident who wanted us to look into this. But if you look at the objections, and we heard from the residents tonight, and we got a petition from them together. So basically, everybody, it seems, in the road is against this and says it has worked all the years. And it's their road. I mean, they should know best. And if there is, apart from one resident, no concern, and would put a lot of, obstacles on the vast majority on the residents there. And fire brigade said they still can access it. So again, I'm also think, it's your road. You should keep it your road. So I'm also think we should not go ahead with it.
Thank you. Councillor Sue Ansari.
said. And I just feel for Sally with your son. And it's ridiculous. Parking in Woodgate makes it worse for Woodgate, but it makes it trebly worse for your son to try and get back. So your grandson, yeah. And Julie, with your mobility problems, thank you for sharing that with us. It's a big thing, isn't it, to do that? So thank you for that. And your mum's got OCD. I know we have to consider, really, thank you, Eunice, for your report. I really appreciate it. And we need to look at these things. But, yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if it's good enough for the fire brigade, it's good enough for me.
Okay, Eunice, I have a question. Have we had any comments or feedback from the waste team about difficulty with them having difficulty turning their vehicles?
I didn't ask them, but if you want me to, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm going to be frank with you. That's a very good question, but I didn't ask. But usually, I'm going to give you the answer. Usually, if they have a problem, they are the first to tell me. I hope that's answered your question.
And residents, councillors, have you had any comments from residents about their bins not being collected because the waste vehicles can't get down that road? Okay. So we're going to move to a vote, and I will make a comment depending on the vote. So can I ask that we go for a vote, please, to vote on this matter? So can I ask all those in favour of this proposal so that we add the double yellow lines to the hammerhead? Can you please raise your hands? All those against? Anyone abstaining? No. So residents, I hope you feel gratified that your comments and your objections have been heard. I just want to say that, you know, we only, and as Councillor Sue Ansari said to Eunice, thank you for putting in all the time and effort with your team, because we've only done this because we had feedback from a resident that it was an issue. We do have to hear from everybody's point of view, but we can clearly hear tonight that the objections are in the majority, and the majority of residents in Babbacombe Close are not in favour of this. So hopefully you feel gratified by the vote tonight, and thank you for coming. Okay, so we're going to move on to item 8, which is the Neighbourhood Manager's Report. I'm just going to continue as you carry on shaking hands, sir, because we do need to...
You did very well today. You were the best in your row. Thank you.
We do need to carry on. I'm trying to keep some semblance of order here. I do know you're very gratified by our results. So I'm going to go to item 8, if I can find it.
Shall I crack on, Chair?
Yeah, thank you. Neighbourhood Manager's Report. Richard, thank you very much.
Many thanks, Chair. This is primarily a wash-up, if you like, of finance during the past year, but there are a couple of little notices at the end with your agreement. So what we've got, and thank you, by the way, for allowing the late material. What happened is, as you know, we have to present the report sometime in advance. He says, trying to speak really loudly. And we had some spends after that. So today's report just showed where the spend was for ward funding, which I'm very pleased to say, I think, for the first time ever on record, I don't have one single pence left. So let's hope my maths has gone particularly well. As you see, there's a theme really around it, isn't there? And that's helping communities via food banks, youth clubs, clubs for older people, and also community events. And I take the Hook Open Day event, and also when we look at the floodlights for the youth centre up at the Sunray Community Centre, which I know is going well as well. So unless I have any questions, really, I'll move away from that. Other than to say, for the few residents left, there's one thing that always appears on here, and that's hanging baskets and rail planters and things like that. And I always make it very clear that if it wasn't for your councillors putting some of their money in, you wouldn't have them in south of the borough. You wouldn't have those, sorry to use correct English, in the south of the borough, because they don't come out of any corporate pot. So thank you very much for that. Part two, if you like, is the allocation of the neighbourhood community grants, which is a slight change tonight. We've
I think that's the next item, so we'll just hold fire for 1 sec. Do members have any questions or comments for Richard on his report? No. Okay, so we are resolved to note that the updates contained within the report regarding the allocation of council award funding for the financial year 24 and 25, and we're also asked to note the updates contained within the report regarding the allocation of South of the Borough Neighbourhood Community Grant funding for the financial year 24-25. Without further ado, we will move on to item 10, ward funding arrangements. Richard.
Could I just add a couple little things, as I said I'd like to, by point of notice, just on the report, if I may. He said frantically looking for it. The first one actually was a little bit of a shame that we had the order in which we did. I wanted to point out to the committee, some of you know that we had two recipients of Mayor's Award in here this evening, Francis and Diane Brannan. I'd like to thank Rob first of all for signposting me to them, but they got a Mayor's Award for 30 years work within Chessington District Residents Association, which I think is quite remarkable, really, to be honest with you. And I'd have liked to have the opportunity to give them a round of applause, but like most of us, it was bedtime. So, and the other thing, really, I just wanted to publicise, if I could, and it affects probably, well, 75% of the people in this room, I'll say. There is an event down at Chessington School and Sports Centre on the 11th of April, and it's aimed at more senior people, it would appear, but not that senior, Move Well, Live Well event. And I was asked to publicise that. And believe it or not, and this got me a little bit grumpy, I have to say, is that the council, it seems, considers senior people at age 50 and above. So I'll make no other comment on that, other than to say there is, yeah, I know, that's what I thought as well. But there is a really long list of groups and people that are going to that event. So if you want to go along yourself to see what we have on offer, or more importantly, really, you've got a neighbour or a friend that you think will benefit, or anyone we know as residents, please pop along. For the few of you who have left, there's some posters on the wall. Thank you. Sorry, that was the additional thing, Chair.
I think just before we move on to item 10, we are aware that hopefully there are some people watching at home. So I think we should just highlight again the two people that were awarded the Community Award. Richard, you just want to say their names again? Because I think, as you said, it's an amazing achievement. Thank you, Mr. Rob, for putting them forward. And for 30 years community service. So do you just want to say their names again? Because it will still be recorded for posterity.
Yes, certainly, Chair. Absolute pleasure. It's Francis and Diane Brannan.
We'll all give them a round of applause. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. So if we move on quickly to item 10, the arrangements for council award funding for 25-26, Richard.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be exceptionally quick with this one. Award funding, as we know, we have a debate every year whether we're going to organise it the same as we've gone, which is £2,000 for each councillor, and you allocate as you require, or we do a collaborative approach, which is either add it to the neighbourhood community grant funding and therefore it becomes under the rules and regulations of neighbourhood community grant funding, or you set it aside as a collaborative pot of money. So your 2,000 times 8 becomes £16,000, and then the outcomes for the spend are decided at committee, not by yourself individually. So they're the three options in A, B and C in the report.
Thank you. So the committee is asked to resolve whether it wishes to amend its working arrangements for the allocation of council award funding, or effectively to retain them, so to keep as we are. So do I have a seconder? Councillor Andreas Kirsch, thank you. So does anyone wish to speak on this? Or can I take it unanimously that we want to carry on with the working arrangements? We're going to move on, I'm afraid, sorry. Members, do you wish to keep the arrangements as they are? So can we vote on this unanimously? Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to item 11, which is the Hunters Road Speed Survey result, which you'll find on Appendix E. Eunice, thank you very much. Could you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we're presenting to the committee results of our speed survey for Hunters Road. We have here average speed for southbound traffic. We found to be, well, I would say southwest bound traffic. We found to be 21.2 mph. Then average speed for northeastbound traffic was 20.7 mph. The speed limit, as we know, for that road is 20 mph, and our conclusion was that there isn't really any significant speeding problem on Hunters Road. On the basis of that, we recommend no intervention from the Council.
Thank you. We've got notification, Mr. Robb, that you wish to comment on this. Is that the case? Yep, please come up.
Hunters Road is actually not a speed problem. If you go down the A243, you can see about 10 or 20 people at a time coming from the Cox Lane industrial estate, crossing the road at that point because they want to get to the bus stop on the 71 going north. And I have got an application in with TfL to have a zebra crossing put there just north of Hunters Road. The problem is pedestrians trying to get across the A243 from Hunters Road, not a speeding problem down Hunters Road. That's all really. Supporting information.
Thank you for your point. So we're going to now move the motion. So the committee is asked to resolve that on the basis of the results of the speed survey set out in paragraphs 3 to 6 of the report, members make note and acknowledge the outcome of the SSR and no further action is required at this time. So could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Dunstone. Eunice, sorry.
Sorry, Chair. What I want to say about Hunters Road as well, there is in the report, we asked members as well to approve for us to buy a couple of speed indicators display so we can use them in the area. And I will take the point raised by Mr. Rob and will investigate it further. Thank you.
So we're going to make note and acknowledge the outcome of the SSSR and agree with the recommendation to purchase some speed improvement devices. And agree with the recommendation to purchase speed indicators. Speed indicators. Okay. So members of the committee who wish to speak, please raise your hand. Councillor Dunstone, Councillor Dunstone.
I just wanted to say what a difference down that part of Hunters Road, that section where the speed humps have been put in and the additional yellow lines. I was one of those who thought, oh, it's not going to work, speeding's going to go crazy down there, which is why we asked for the monitoring things to go in. I have to say, well done, because I think it's a great result. I go down there a lot, I lived around there, and it's made a massive improvement. So thank you very much indeed to everybody who voted for that to be done, and for the work that the Highways team have done on it, because it has made a huge difference. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I second that. Having driving down there regularly, I have noticed that the speed has remained the same. So it's great that the results of the speed survey represent and reflect what we know. So can I take it as unanimous that we vote to make note and acknowledge the outcome and agree with the recommendations to purchase some speed indicators? Committee unanimously agree. Thank you very much. So, item 13.
It should be 13 years.
Item 13, which is the decision progress update. So we presented to update it. It's just for members' information. There's nothing we need to vote on. Urgent items authorised by the chair. I have none. So thank you very much for those stalwart members of the community that are still here. It's much appreciated that we're not talking to an empty room. And we will close the meeting at 10:31. Thank you very much.